Morning Jocks rolls into McElroy and Cubelic in the morning, which will go into three-man front, which will go into Paul Feinbaum. You keep it locked right here on Jocks all day. I actually have a lot of college football stuff that I want to get to today. Andy Staples has his hot seat list out.
Oh, no.
Hot seat. There is a new alleged Jeremiah Smith offer that has been thrown around.
I'll take the under.
Probably, but just hearing
Fun
it.
to talk about.
Hearing it will wow you. I think, because of some of the numbers that we have seen prior and some of the numbers that have been thrown out before. There is a new portal strategy with a college football player that's out there. We'll see what that one looks like, what that one is going to be, and if it's going to work. Bill Belichick is taking North Carolina's football field from artificial turf to grass.
Here we go.
How does this change the expectation for Belichick, in your opinion?
I think they now are lock for ACC title.
I'm with you. I do like it, though. I don't know how much he had to do with it, but I'm a fan of it. I want all the turf gone, except for my backyard.
Wow.
The ACC schedules are out. We'll get to a couple of those and some Super Bowl props that we may begin discussing. Auburn's got LSU tonight in basketball. We'll have Chris Blair at 9:30. Chris Blair, the voice of the Tigers, not the Auburn Tigers. We had him on yesterday. We'll have the voice of the other Tigers on tonight. Well, we'll have him on this morning. He'll be on the call tonight for the LSU side of Auburn LSU in basketball. Zach Berman covers the Philadelphia Eagles. He's with us at 9 o'clock today. We talk Super Bowl with him. Trevor Sikkema's down at the Senior Bowl. Apparently not a great day for some in-state folks down in Mobile. We'll discuss that, talk about it just a little bit more. Also, we don't usually kick it off with basketball, GMAC. But Kentucky gets a win over Tennessee last night, 78-73. Have you seen any details coming out of this game by chance?
I watched it.
What was your takeaway?
Tennessee looked like they'd been through a fist fight last weekend and were super sluggish most of the night.
Did it look like they had attempted a three-pointer before this game on the entire season?
They looked exhausted. And I think we're going to see the same from Auburn tonight.
Oh.
I think that game on Saturday took its toll. And I don't know how you could possibly justify that it didn't. I mean, that game was a war.
It was.
So I can't say last night was at all surprising. And I will be curious to see how Auburn handles it on one extra day's rest.
Maybe not surprising that Tennessee goes down 78-73. Kentucky gets a win. They're 14-5. Tennessee 17-3. Kentucky shoots 12 of 24 from behind the three-point line. When they do that, and that is hit double-digit threes in a game, they're pretty good. 11-1 this season when you make at least 10 threes. That's not a super surprising stat because that's a lot of three-pointers. Now, the fact that you shot more than 10 in 12 games also somewhat surprising. Fourth win this season over an AP top 10 team. That's the most in Division I for Kentucky. So Auburn leads the nation in most top 25 wins. Kentucky leads the nation in most top 10 wins. There's a little bit of a theme there that you would think is sensical because of the SEC setting an all-time AP record for most teams ranked in a season. They've done that this year actually twice, setting the record with 13 and 14 different teams being ranked. The problem, though, Greg, is Tennessee shot 45 threes last night.
Yes.
They made 11.
Not what you want.
11 threes in a game, not bad.
Not on 45 attempts.
You missed 34 threes in a game. It's not ideal.
Nah.
Goodness gracious.
What's wrong with that?
I feel like it's going to put you at somewhat of a disadvantage.
No.
To missing that many from behind the arc.
Come on.
And surprisingly, it's only the second most all-time three-point attempts in a game in school history for Tennessee. So there was one out there at some point where they shot either 46 or more in a game.
Game.
Tennessee was
not
letting it rip.
practice.
And it did not work from behind the three-point line for the Vols last night. Just atrocious.
It was a tough watch. But it was also, if you looked at them, they just looked sluggish. Their movement off the ball wasn't great. They just looked. They didn't look the same. I don't really, and I know, look, Kentucky's really good, but to play like that at home as an 11-point favorite is a hard thing to wrap your head around. Kentucky was without two of their top four scorers.
Yep.
I mean,
and we're potentially going to be down another. who was questionable in the game.
Exactly. So, look, you just lost to a team that was at half best of what they're capable of at home as a double-digit favorite. Is it the upset of the season? No, not by a long shot. But it looked like Saturday's outcome has taken its toll on Tennessee.
No doubt.
No doubt about it. They looked sluggish from the get-go. I was really excited about the game last night, to be honest with you, because I might have been a little more interested in Kentucky because I kind of anticipated a performance like that. I didn't anticipate it being that sluggish, but I was very much looking forward to that game, and it was about what I expected, to be honest with you. I did not expect that type of output from 3, though. Not from Tennessee.
So that means Tennessee is 15 of 67 their last 2 games from behind the 3-point line. Ouch. I mean, triple yikes.
What wrong with that?
It's just not exactly where you want to live from behind the 3-point line. Now, as you mentioned with Auburn tonight, can LSU sort of offer up some of the same things that Kentucky did to Tennessee if they do get a sluggish team? I think Bruce Pearl's bench going to be big tonight. A lot of minutes come off the bench. Of course, you have a couple players that have been a little bit hampered. Those injuries might play in a little bit extra when you've had a game like you did on Saturday. You've got an extra day's rest, but you did have to travel. Not that taking the school's private plane, 2 states over is a big deal in college basketball these days.
Come on.
But it is on the road. Don't know what the crowd's going to be like, but you put number 1 in there, it should be pretty good. Auburn, by the way, if they win tonight, it'll be the best start in program history through 20 games. They're 8-1 all time as the AP number 1 team. 5-0 at home.
Who's LSU, a loss to?
I could probably go back and find.
I mean, it's literally from one of 2 years.
I think it was Kentucky a couple years ago.
Was it?
I believe so, if I'm not mistaken. I'll try to get to that. I don't know if I'll be able to do it while I'm talking to you on the air right now.
I'm good with that. I couldn't remember. I mean, they've been 9 weeks, pretty good run, and to only have 1 loss, I feel like it would stand out. I don't remember it.
I think it was when they just went to number 1, and then they had Kentucky, I want to say, at home. I could be wrong on that one. By the way, LSU's 3-17 all time against the AP number 1 team. 5 straight losses. The last time they knocked off the AP number 1 team was Duke in 2006 in the Sweet 16. So it's been a minute since LSU has pulled this off. So that's your college basketball news for the day, at least most of it. We'll spend a little bit more time on it later as Chris Blair joins the show. Over to college football, I mentioned Andy Staples has his hot seat list out going into this next season. Hugh Freeze is on that list. Also, Billy Napier on that list, which I thought he had excused himself from this list with what happened and how they pulled things together last year. You lose a quarterback for the majority of the season, and you're able to put in a freshman who kind of takes care of business. You would think that, all right, this guy obviously knows what he's doing, but apparently not, according to Andy.
No.
Here is his list of coaches on the hot seat. There's a graphic along with it, which means it's real. It's obviously true.
Heck yeah.
He's got Brent Pry at Virginia Tech, Troy Taylor at Stanford, which I think most people would say, of course, obviously, maybe. Does anybody care? Scott Satterfield at Cincinnati.
Excuse me.
You heard me. Listen, if Stanford is going to carry themselves the way that they have, they deserve to not have people care.
Whoa.
Play the game. Play the game. Play the game. Play the game.
What does that mean?
Try.
No. Can't try.
Is what?
Can't try. You don't want people to think you care.
Don't let sailboaters direct your athletic department.
They're called sailboat-eye.
Sailboaties. Whatever they do.
Sailboatage.
In their dinghies. Don't let them dictate how your athletic department is run, number 1. Scott Satterfield at Cincinnati.
I thought they had a good year. They're going to have a good year this year.
I didn't think. Cincinnati is one of those perfect examples of what are you expecting?
Playoff.
Then pay Luke Fickell when he's there and keep him.
You are mad today.
I'm not mad. I'm giving you the reality of situations that a lot of people don't like to discuss. I'll give you another one of those in the exact same boat, except a little bit more capable.
Boat or dinghy?
Sailee. Except a little bit more capable.
Yacht.
Mike Loxley at Maryland.
See, like
Once again,
I've had a
what
long
do you
conversation
expect?
with people up there. He has a lot of support up there. A lot.
For obvious reasons.
I think part of it has to do with the fact that they kind of know who they are. Like Maryland kind of knows who they are. And he's going to get them to a bowl game every year. Like, I don't think they really expect him to do much more than that. Like, give us an entertaining product. Like, take a couple, pull an upset every once in a while.
Give a run every 3-4 years.
Yeah. Then, I'm when I run, it means like 9 wins. I mean, it doesn't need to be like Big Ten championship contender. I think they are very aware of who they are. And it's still a basketball school, like in a lot of ways. So I think that Loxley is safe. But at the same time, I don't know how much the Indiana run last year has changed programs like Maryland. Like that type of situation can screw it up for everybody.
I would say the sustainability of it can screw it up for everybody. You're right. It can disrupt the mindset. But if it happens again and again, then it's going to be your out time.
Yeah.
You can't base it, and some schools will. You can't base it on one of those.
No.
And the good news is the basketball program's 16-5. So they're having a pretty good year, as you stated they're supposed to. Also, Brent Brennan in Arizona. Once again, you can't ask someone to come in to one of the biggest piles of poop in college football and expect them to just get it going in a year or two. That thing was beyond a mess. Beyond a mess.
At Arizona?
Do you not agree?
Well, Jed Fish won 10 games 2 years ago.
But what was it before Fish?
Disaster.
So, and Jed did an awesome job. An incredible job. But that doesn't
it was
mean
a little
that
lucky.
But that doesn't mean it's ready to just be on cruise control.
No,
like
far from it.
Jed wasn't there long enough to have it sustainable for the next guy.
Yes. I think Brent Brennan had a very difficult undertaking. And you look at the two pieces that he hung on to.
Also, the timing.
Brutal. There's very little to backfill in the portal. They lost guys to Washington because Jed Fish was actively recruiting his former players. I mean, those are tough situations to be in. I mean, it is. I don't know how else to spin it.
Yeah, and I do understand some people that would say, okay, you had a lot of your core. You had Fafita, T-Mac, Manu. You had a lot of that nucleus back that put a really good product on the field. But I just feel like that was a little bit quick. That's just me. I feel like it's a little quick on that one. Sam Pittman is there for Andy Staples, who I guess he's just never coming off now. I think if Sam Pittman made the playoff next year, people would say, well, I don't know if Sam can do it again. So he's right there. He's got to do it again.
It was because of Petrino's offense. That's why.
Yeah, that's the only reason.
But I mean, let's be real. Like, you really think he's on perfectly stable footing? I love Sam.
I wouldn't say perfect, but
okay,
just.
I mean, he's a 5-7 away from getting gassed.
Okay, well, let's the last two, Billy Napier, Hugh Freeze. We'll hit them all. Let's ask this question: if someone were to be quote on the hot seat, what does that mean to you? Like, what does that say to you?
Means they could get fired with a certain outcome this year.
During the year, right?
Yes.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Based exclusively on wins and losses.
Correct. To me, that means there's a chance they're gone in season if things don't go well.
Yes.
Not we're going to reevaluate this thing at the end of the year, or better get to 8, because that means you're giving them the year to do that.
Correct.
Hot seat to me means we are ready to pull this trigger. And if you disrupt things enough and you make the wrong people mad, it could happen week 4, week 8, week 2, week 9. You're going to be gone if things don't go well. That's what it means. Okay, so we're kind of on the same page there.
That's how I see it.
Billy Napier, Hugh Freeze, also there. So we're going to spend some time talking about this when we come back. We'll take your calls on it. 800-239-9569. You can text into the show, 205-834-9450. Tweet in at Mac and Cube. Do you consider Hugh Freeze to be on the, quote, hot seat heading into this season? Napier, Pittman, Loxley, any others on the list that you want to discuss? And what does hot seat mean to you? That it can happen after week 1. Greg's already told you. We tried to tell you last week. Do not think that this is one that you get through on neutral week 1 for Auburn. This Baylor game is not going to be a pushover. So that's another thing that you have to kind of take into consideration here. We will also begin to break down the top 100 college football games of last season, according to others. It's not our list, but we're going to take said list and we're going to go watch the games and then just rediscuss them on the show. That'll be Alabama Vanderbilt today. We will do that this hour. And we'll give you our top 3 at the end of this hour. All that and more next on McElroy and Cubelic in the morning. $7:18 Wednesday, January 29th, almost through the first month of 2025. I saw some people yesterday talking about January's creeping. Do you guys feel that way?
Ugh,
You guys feel like January's taking a long time?
no. Well, anyone that's in no booze January like I was a week ago, yeah, it was creeping.
What, did you stop that?
Yeah. I gave it all I had. I gave you 23 days.
Poor guy. You going to be all right?
I
Today's
gave you
29th.
until last Thursday.
What put you over the edge?
Dinner.
The one that was made, the one that wasn't served, the taste of the one you had. What aspect of it?
Date night. And youth
I'm
basketball.
staying away from that one.
Youth basketball practice.
They didn't comprehend staying in your squares on defense.
No.
They put you
That
over.
was actually our first try at it. And yeah, I said, this is a disaster.
Did you at least wait till you got home?
I'm going to turn to the
I
bottle.
will say this. I love how the kids push the envelope and try to stay in. We have the ones that'll be, it's like they're first baseman and they're on the stretch and they got the one toe in there and they're reaching for the kid. It's like, I appreciate the effort of even trying to stay
I have
square.
one on our team and he is the freaking man. He doesn't care. I have to put him back in his box every time because he's out there pressing the ball. Okay, sorry. And he always says sorry. He gets back in the box and then is still like waving his arms chaotically, like trying to get in throwing lanes.
But then you have the ones that just don't, not in a bad way. They don't comprehend it and they just go play defense. It's like
100%.
The concept of it's just not there. Like,
It's
what do
a
you
great
mean stay in
effort.
a square on defense?
No,
Like,
it's
not
totally
doing that.
counterintuitive. It's 100% counterintuitive.
It doesn't happen.
It's super fun.
I hate that ruined that practice ruins no booze January for you.
Yeah, boozeless January.
Every time you say that, by the way, I feel like you're going to eat sushi in Los Angeles. Like no boo January. I'm just like,
no,
you
not
go
no
all the way
boo.
there for sushi. Like I don't understand. But
Not no boo, no booze.
Got it.
Booze. No drink January lasts 23 days. I felt pretty good about it.
It's a
fine.
3/4 of a month.
Yeah.
I feel like you made a good
Seen
run
worse.
at it there.
Yeah.
So yeah, there you
I'll
go.
take like 3 or 4 days off next month, and then 3 or 4 days off in February, and
why
There we go.
not?
there you go. And then I got my full month.
You'll have that, and that'll be kind of the way to go there. So back to Hugh Freeze being on the hot seat. Do you think this is real? How hot is the seat? Like, how would you describe Hugh Freeze's setting, situation going into this season?
I think it's probably understood from an external perspective that this appears to be a season where they are all in, right? Does it not? With how aggressive they've been in the portal, with how aggressive they were on the recruiting trail, it does indicate an all-in type of feel. And if this season, for whatever reason, goes sideways, I can see the brain trust at Auburn. And look, it's Auburn really more so than anything else.
I do think that plays a large role.
It
in
has to. And that's not being negative. It's just acknowledging that Auburn has a quick trigger.
It's what it is.
Like, it's
That's
just a reality.
Let me interrupt you quickly.
I don't think it's likely that he's in trouble this year personally.
Evil Travis Williams, which would have to be way out there because Travis Williams is far from that.
Yeah.
And Deuce May both tweet in, it was at Arkansas that Auburn lost his number one, and they are correct. I had forgotten about that road trip when they were the number one team. I think it was 2 years ago, maybe. But that was the one that they lost.
I think I do remember that.
Back to Coach Freeze. I am with you 100% on, I think the school and the school's reputation and the people around it have a lot to do with this. And that's fair. It's fair for Andy Staples to put Hugh Freeze on that list because of that individually. Some of that has been the school's fault. Some of that has been the individual that has been in place. Some of that has been things that maybe could have been in control by either side, but were not. And that could be the school doing their own thing while a coach was in good standing with said position.
Yeah.
That could be coach in good standing, not handling things the way that he needed to when he had that seat. I will say this, though, Greg. I think that this can be managed more so than wins and losses. This might not make sense when I first say it, but I think eventually you'll follow me. I think this can be handled by the head coach more so than how many games he wins or loses. I think there is a perception that can be driven by him that could help him, even if the record is not maybe considered to be overly satisfactory by the fan base. I think there are things that are said. I think there are things that are done that a lot of folks have grown tired of. And it's not just he doesn't get good players. The roster's not good. He's not recruiting. He doesn't know how to coach. I don't think those things are the frustrating things more so than other things right now. I think some of the excuses, I think some of the blame, I think just plain and simple, some of the conversation. If it is altered this year and that changes, and the team's direction looks positive, but it's not 10-2, I think a lot of people will then be okay with that.
Sure.
But if it's a mediocre record, one that's just above where a lot of people really think it should be or want it, and some of the other things begin to have a little more extra with them, that's when I think you could say Andy Staples is accurate and most likely will end up being on a proverbial hot seat, if you will.
Yeah, I understand the thought process. I don't know as much about how the brain trust is evaluating Hugh Freeze's first couple of years. I thought they were pretty good last year. I know that they didn't win as many games. I thought that was a good football team. 5-7 is never going to be enough. The Arkansas game was inexcusable. The Oklahoma game was inexcusable. Like there were a few moments in the game where you're like, all right, the The Cal game, there's just a bad game. And little did you know, you're going against arguably a top 5 secondary. I'm not sure anybody knew that at the time.
The Cal game, you just got beat.
You got beat. I mean, like you went against top 5 secondary. They made plays on the ball. They forced a couple turnovers. It is what it is. Then you panic. You start a guy that has no business being a starter at this level, at this stage of his career, and you lose the Arkansas game as a result. Like that to me is that's coaching. Like you make a mistake, you overanalyze said mistake, and you lose another game as a result of the mistake. That can't happen. So that I think is part of the challenge. And remind me, did Peyton Thorne start against Oklahoma?
Oklahoma, yes.
He did, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Was that after the Cal game? I just can't remember what game was what order it was in.
I think it was New Mexico into Arkansas.
And Arkansas is when Hank Brown got the hook.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you would have had an opportunity for your starter, the guy that you knew gave you the best chance to win, to get some confidence back in a bounce back game against a lower level competition and throw 5 touchdowns. And all would have been right in the world. And he would have maybe carried over some of that momentum into a game against a team that could give you some problems. So all that being said, last year was a failure, but it was not a catastrophe. I think last year they were close. This year, I expect them to get over the hump.
Cal, New Mexico, Arkansas, Oklahoma.
Okay. So it was Cal. Then you bench him. New Mexico, what's-his-face gets the start. And then he starts, what's-his-face again against Arkansas.
Hank Brown is his name.
He gets backhanded. And then you put Thorne back in.
There were 4 picks against Cal. We know that they're not all
2
what
of them were on
everybody
him.
describes them on.
Yeah.
But yeah. And then, but it actually makes a lot of sense the way you lay it out, that you had a chance to go build some equity. You had a chance to maybe sort of change a little bit of the narrative and get a lot of folks on the same page. And you threw a lot of that away because whatever equity was going to be built with the backup, it wasn't going to last against Arkansas, Oklahoma, Georgia, Missouri, Kentucky, Vandy, A&M, or Alabama. Maybe against Monroe it would have, but those other teams, that wasn't going to be there. So you do that, and then you lose 4 straight.
Yeah.
And whether it was Arkansas, Oklahoma, could have been potentially a little bit different. You played with Missouri, and you had that game in hand, and maybe that's the part that folks look at and say, I can't get past this. Arkansas game, I'm not going to say it was in hand because you couldn't tackle the quarterback.
Right.
I mean, it's just at the end of the day, you couldn't get him to the ground. But you had a receiver go for 156, and you did some good things and had some opportunities in that game. Oklahoma was in hand. Missouri, some folks would say, was in hand at times, and you couldn't close the deal. And so maybe with some of that equity being rebuilt or replenished or changed, altered, could have done that. I think that the potential for the hot seat is there, but I believe personally it's for different reasons than people think. People are going to just look at the record and say, if he loses 2 of the first 5, or if they don't do this and this the first quarter of the season, he's out. I think it's different.
How much of it has to do with how all in they feel this year?
Take me a step further with your description of that.
How much money they spend in the portal? I mean,
I don't think it's night and day different from what they spent last year. I think they're doing what they need to do to get good players. I don't think that they have stretched to going above and beyond to get every single person to drop every penny possible. If you were doing that, if you did it like Ohio State did it last year, that's different. What would you, I don't think they're going to that length. That's just me personally. Are they still spending? Yes. Are they on par with the upper echelon of the SEC? I believe so. We don't have the financial records of every collective and team. We don't really know, but I think they're doing more than their part. And I think the people running the collective have done a great job. I think they're putting a lot of money out there, which is good. But I don't think it is 10 times what the middle of the SEC is spending. I don't think it's 2 times more than.
I don't think anyone's suggesting that. I'm just suggesting this feels like year 3, you kind of need to break through. And it feels like they've kind of given him everything he needs. Their lack of success is not for a lack of resources and for a lack of commitment.
That goes back to my point.
And the alignment.
That goes back to my point. A lot of the discussion from certain people has been because there's not enough in place to win. And it's mainly been directed at roster. and who controls the roster.
Well, I would disagree with that. I can't speak to everything.
I'm talking about the messaging has been that the roster is not good. And that cannot continue.
Fair. I thought you were talking more about who's paying the piper.
No. That's the resources are there. The right people have stepped up. I make no bones about that. I believe that. I feel like I know that. But you can't keep having those people step up and then complain about the roster. That can't happen.
I think the roster is good.
I think it's solid. I think there are a lot of parts that could be improved. I think it's enough.
I think the roster was good last year. I mean, I don't think it's a Texas roster, but you had a lot of good football players. You didn't have a lot of guys on the hoof that looked the part, but you had a lot of good football players.
Fair.
So maybe they want more length. Maybe they want more size speed combo. Then fine. Yeah, I can get on board with that. But they had productive.
Yeah, I'm sure Ryan Day would like a little more athleticism at tight end. I'm sure he would like.
88 can run. Hater.
I'm talking about like just being loose, I'm sure they would like a little more physicality on the offensive line. I'm sure.
Whoa.
My point, every team has something they'd like to add.
Shots fired at Lou Holtz.
I mean, do you not think that Coach Saban wanted a little more athleticism at quarterback in 2009?
No.
I do.
We had plenty of athleticism. They didn't let me eat.
More brains.
That would have been hard with our 7 quarterbacks. But we definitely had plenty of athleticism. They just didn't let me eat.
Oh boy.
I would have sprayed, but they didn't let me.
We've got a tweet into the show on a new hot seat candidate, which we will address on the other side. First I'll tell you about
only imagine what that is. What did Clark Lee do to them?
I feel like Clark's in a good spot.
You think?
But yeah, no, we'll get to that one on the other side. I'll tell you about your CBD store first. If you're looking for a better night's sleep, they have products that can get you that, and you're going to wake up feeling refreshed, and products to even get you going further in the morning without the jitters. They have products that can do that. Gut health, skincare. If you have arthritis, if you have anxiety, there's products that can help you with that for your daily routine to just make it better. If you have a pet that struggles to get up and down the stairs, getting around the house a little bit, we've had 2 in our house at your CBD store has helped. Also, their skincare. We have our dog now. She kind of gets the allergies going when the weather changes. They have products that can help manage that at your CBD store. Visit one of their 3 locations, Highway 280 by Baylor Brothers, 150 by the Cajun Cleaver, Trustful just off 459, your CBD store where good health hits home. Should another in-state coach be on the hot seat? Some of you think so. We'll discuss it next on Mac and Cube in the morning. All right, welcome back in. McElroy and Cubelic in the morning, Wednesday, January 29, 7:36 a.m. Hamilton tweets into the show. You can do that at Mac and Cube. You can call the show, 800-239-9569. You can text into the show, 205-834-9450. Unofficially, DeBoer's seat is the sun. Emoji sun. Sorry. People will say the right things, voicing support, et cetera, but if he has another repeat of last season, record with players appearing to be in control, stubbornness to make in-game adjustments when your plan is emoji poop face, no direction, comma, Kim Kardashian gif. It's a lot to undertake there.
Read that one more time just so people understand how ridiculous it is.
At Mac and Cube, unofficially, DeBoer's seat is the emoji sun. People will say the right things, voicing support, et cetera, but if he has another repeat of last season, record with players appearing to be in control, stubbornness to make in-game adjustments when you're playing as emoji poop face, comma, no direction, comma, Kim Kardashian gif, throat slash 3 times, tongue sticking out.
Yep. You're wrong. You know nothing about what you're talking about.
What is the, I didn't really feel like the in-game adjustment part was a massive deal.
That's because it's not a thing.
What games would what games would perceptionally the in-game adjustment struggles be?
Oklahoma. The only in-game adjustment needs to be guy gets benched. Michigan. What's the in-game adjustment? Guy gets benched. Like those are the in-game adjustments that needed to happen, but you just couldn't do that because that would have caused a big problem.
And then the hard part, especially in the Oklahoma game, is the yards are there. The yards, for the most part, are obtained, but the yards are, for a particular reason, chosen not to be finished. And then decisions through the air also were made.
Yeah.
If you were going to do it, that was the game to do it. And the bowl game's the bowl game. You can't. I'm not going to judge a coach or really a player just based on an individual bowl performance.
Well, I'm just suggesting where they're
things.
coming from.
Sure.
I'm not. I personally don't care that much about the bowl game.
Those are different. But I mean, do we think that Kalen DeBoer is on the hot seat?
No.
With what we just talked about and these other coaches that, according to Andy Staples, are entering the season on the hot seat. You're talking about Mike Loxley at Maryland, Hugh Freeze, Brent Pry, Troy Taylor, Sam Pittman, Billy Napier. I think very few people are going to have Kalen DeBoer on that seat. And if you wanted to say that it's a repeat of last year, the hot seat, in my opinion, would then become at the conclusion of that going into the next season, saying, okay, you've had 2 years. This is like you just said with Hugh Freeze in year 3. The same thing with DeBoer at that point, saying, all right, we're going to year 3. Like, you've got your guys now.
Yep.
You have an understanding. This needs to change. This needs to be better. This needs to be back to what we expect it to be on an annual basis.
One problem working against Kalen DeBoer, 234 points scored in the first half.
Oh, boy.
230 scored in the second half. And overtime.
What was the number again? The 2 numbers?
234 in the first half. 205 in the second half.
Oh,
205.
Wow. Before he was just barely a bad coach. Now it's a 10%
now you just need to
coach.
cancel.
Ugh.
It's official.
I mean, according to reporters in Lee County, what are we waiting for? He should be gone.
Yep.
Clearly
Might as
can't
well.
coach. Can't do it. Yep.
Where are the articles on this?
It's unbelievable.
I mean,
You know what? Kalen should have thrown memorabilia into those covering the
I think
school.
I think there's a reason you didn't bring this up with Kennington Lloyd Smith on the show yesterday.
Well, because I'm a big bammer.
You know it.
I'm in spin control. Golly, that might still be the dumbest comment I've ever heard about sports, but that's beside the point.
I just want to know where the reporters are on this.
In Lee County.
No one's paying attention to that.
I'm saying.
No one's doing their due diligence anymore.
Where's AL.com on Kalen DeBoer scoring less points in the second half than the first half on this story? Where's Michael Casagrande? Where's Rodak? What are you guys doing? Scalisi, where is everybody on this? I want to know. I want to know because we had articles on this on the other side of the state laying out clearly that if you score more points in the first half than the second half as a head coach, you're not good. And that's it. Nothing else. That's the only thing that makes you a good or bad coach.
Yes.
So not only is Kalen DeBoer failing, the media covering the Crimson Tide are also failing. And
For
if you're
those
not
that don't-
following that,
For those that don't think we're joking, those that think we're being serious, we are very much joking right now.
this is a long-standing internal joke on this show that will go forever, by the way.
It will never end.
It won't.
It's like the Deke party in Tuscaloosa. It'll never end.
I don't even know
What is what?
I'm
You
not
have to
sure
be
if
on
I
the
should even
inside. You
ask
don't
about
understand
that.
it.
Like,
You don't
what
need to
that
know.
What is that?
That sounds
Just take my
terrifying,
word for it.
actually.
When you think about Kalen DeBoer, I think it's amazing how few people want to pay attention to what the portal was for that team last year. Those that are continuing to put your head in the sand, be in the sand all you want. That's fine. That's your choice. You are choosing to be naive. That is your decision.
Yeah.
But if you look at the 31 players that left via the portal last year, backfilled with 27 true freshmen, several of which happen to be difference makers for your team, luckily enough, because true freshman being a difference maker is not likely. You have your best receivers a difference maker. Arguably your, I don't know, best secondary defender. I mean, whether it's Xavier Brown was pretty dang sporty. Damani Jackson had a really good year, first year with the team. They had like 32 guys that were first year with the team. 32 guys, first year with the team. Several of which were having to play. There were times in the secondary when you looked back there, you had 3 true freshmen in the secondary. Not to mention a defensive line that was not really a difference-making unit at all.
I mean, in the top 2 games of the season, according to Bill Connolly, what were a big portion of those conversations? Plays made by freshman DBs in the Georgia game and the Vanderbilt game.
Correct.
Or not made.
Correct.
Made and not made.
Yeah, it happens. I mean, guess what? It happens. They were young. But I think it's amazing. Everyone that keeps banging this drum, oh, well, look at the team he inherited. Look at the team he inherited. Please tell me about the team he inherited. Walk me through the team he inherited. Who was the best receiver? Because I don't think Ryan Williams played for Nick Saban the year before.
He didn't sign him.
I didn't see Isaiah Bond.
He didn't recruit.
No, he was
him.
in Texas.
He didn't
First of
recruit
all,
him.
Ryan Williams did sign to Kalen DeBoer.
He didn't put the blood, sweat, and tears into that recruitment.
Yeah. The blood, sweat, and a quick drive down to Saraland to make sure we get that NIL right.
Just down the road from all that high paycheck.
At least they kept it right. They got it done.
I mean, it's just amazing to me. Like, I just am a little bit tired of the narrative. Like, I did this on the pod the other day. If you really look at what was lost for every first-year coach, all the different guys, what they had to endure in the portal, nobody had it worse than Kalen DeBoer. Nobody. And you can say I'm spinning it in favor of Kalen. Fine. I don't really care what you think. Tell me how many guys are going to be able to capably replace the best center in America, Seth McLaughlin. Went to Ohio State. Why? Because he was forced out the door by people that were unaware of what was going on. Seth McLaughlin, best center in America. True or false?
He was up there.
Okay.
He was this year before he got hurt, for sure.
Ja'Cory Brooks is Louisville's top receiver. Trey Amos was the best defender on Ole Miss's defense. And you're going to say, hang on a second. Wait, hang on. What about Walter Nolan? What about Princely Umanmielen? According to their coach, the best player on their defense is Trey Amos. He was going to be a starter at corner this past year. Amari Niblack, the second best tight end on Texas. Isaiah Bond.
Now Texas A&M.
Right. Isaiah Bond, when healthy, was the best receiver at Texas. And Caleb Downs, who's arguably the best defensive player in America.
One of the best players in America, period.
You are able to fill them with Damani Jackson, who was hurt half the year. Keon Sabu broke his foot against Tennessee. LT Overton, who's a rock-solid, steady player. Guy I really like. I think he's a good player.
Center's a push.
And Parker Brailsford, who's been outstanding.
Yeah.
Like, all right. But you look at everything they lost, man, just your numbers and the amount of youth.
Totally fair. I told the Gulf Coast Athletic Club, I was going to get that right today because I botched it yesterday when I spoke Monday night. I said, how many guys on that roster, when you watch them, you guys watch it like I do, were you just scared of? That you watched and say, goodness, I didn't want to play against that guy. Compared to the 10 years prior. Not even close.
Yeah.
Literally not even close.
And don't take the 247 rankings for it either. Go look at the guys. Watch them play.
It's fair.
Do you remember Tommy Brockermeyer? Wasn't he a 5-star?
Still is.
Think so.
Still is.
Like,
Yep.
Oh,
Going to
you're
Miami. Going to Miami, Greg. So he's got to be a 5-star.
great. Yeah. What about the other one? Also a 5-star?
I think so.
I think. Yeah.
Like, were they actually 5 stars? If you just watch them?
Potentially.
I'm blown away by the 5, like people's refusal to get beyond the recruiting ranking.
All right.
Look at the roster. Look at the roster. Go ahead. Look at the roster.
Look at it. All right. Top 3 comes to you each and every day. On the other side of this break, G-Mac, what do we have on tap for us today?
Today is my son's birthday.
Turn up. Happy birthday.
Yeah.
Happy birthday.
And yesterday, I went to pick up a pair of shoes. They were basketball shoes, and we got Vince some really cool Giannis's, thanks to Cole Cubelic's recommendation.
There you go.
They are sweet, too. Big fan. He wore them to school today. So my question coming back, top 3 pairs of shoes you ever owned.
Oh, that's a lot. All right. We will discuss that next on McElroy and Cubelic in the morning. All right, welcome back in. McElroy and Cubelic in the morning, 7:51 a.m. Wednesday, January 29th. Before we continue, Greg, Valentine's Day right around the corner. Tell our listeners why they need to go to Bromberg's.
Well, Bromberg's is a great spot, especially for Valentine's Day. You need to go grab one of these Via Tree glass-blown vases that are awesome. And if you go and buy one on the 13th or the 14th, so a couple weeks from now of February, you will get a free bouquet of fresh flowers. So that Via Tree hibiscus glass vase will come with fresh flowers in them if you go and get it on the day before Valentine's Day at the Summit or on Valentine's Day in Mountain Brook. You can also add a gold-plated heart charm to tie around your vase with a personalized engraved monogram, name, or special date for only $28. Prices on those vases begin at $69. So go and take advantage of that beautiful piece brought in from Italy, that fluted design that was inspired by the hibiscus flower. Go and check them out at Bromberg's in Mountain Brook Village and at the Summit.
Top 3 pair of shoes that I've ever owned. I'm going to go with back in the day, the original Shaq pumps.
Shaq pumps?
That was probably the first pair of shoes that I had that I actually obtained that felt unattainable.
Yeah.
I had to get them for Christmas, and my mother forced me to make a deal to not tell my grandparents how much they cost because she knew that if I did, that he probably would have made me take them back on the spot. But nonetheless, those were incredible. I'm going to go Cement 3 Jordans because, once again, unattainable shoe at the time, and I was a little bit younger when those dropped.
Yeah.
But the marketing around those, Mars Blackman and whatnot, you had the cover of Sports Illustrated was people getting shot for their Jordans. Like, there was a lot with it. I couldn't get them. They re-released them. I have them. There you go. The black Cement 3s. Whites are great too, and I still believe that the white Cement 4s look better, but the Cement 3s were the ones that I originally wanted. And then I'm actually going to go with the last pair of Brooks running shoes that I bought because I had no idea those were that comfortable, and they're incredible.
Wait, what?
You heard me. I wear them on the sideline.
Oh, gosh.
And for everybody who says, I wear sneakers with a suit on the sideline, you don't walk 22,000 steps on the sideline for a game. So
let them know.
Don't care what you think about it.
I don't care.
There you go.
Love it. All right. My first pair of Jordans that I ever owned, the 12s. Had them for basketball. It was around the same time as Space Jam. Like, everything about the 12s were just the coolest things ever. Like, I loved them. And then at that point, that just opened up the whole world to me of Jordan. Yep. Had to go and get,
took Bugs Bunny to do it.
It was it. Well, I was, 6.
Bill Murray helped. Come on now.
I didn't exactly have credit card nor a way to get to Fallbrook Mall. But it was super fun place. But the 12s opened up my world to Jordan. And at that point, I was hooked. And I've just so happened to be in like the second generation. I think that's the best generations, obviously, the 1s, 3s, 4s, and 5s. But the second generation of 11s, 12s, and 13s, I think, is also pretty cool. I also didn't hate the 14s, but people did. Not me. That's my number 1 pair of shoe ever. Number 2, Luke Casey Gator Belly Skin.
Oh God, you have a deal right now with these. Like, should I throw out Track Shack where I get my Brooks downtown Homewood?
Did I say where I bought them?
If you're going to do, if we're just throwing freebies out today, let me know because I got a bunch I can throw out.
Okay. Well, does your CBD store sell friggin' mall walkers? Like, I don't like. What are we like? What are we doing?
Paid to be on the air.
Okay. Luke Casey.
I didn't know Lucchese.
Lucchese.
Whatever.
Luke Casey Gator Skin Belly.
Atta boy.
All right. That would be number 2, and then number 3 is kind of a tough one, but I'm gonna have to just go and lean all in. Crocs.
What?
Crocs. I like them. They're comfortable.
Somebody kick him out of the studio. Where's security
This guy.
when you need
They're
him?
not really number 3. You slap. You totally took the bait. I just told you no Crocs allowed in the break. You're really going to take that?
I hope not.
You're really going to buy that? No.
Are you going with the Croc tennis shoes? And how many giblets do you have on there?
Okay, relax.
Giblets.
Number 3 are still the number 1 Nike shoe of all time for me. It's the Air Max 90s. Air Max 90 to me will never be topped, never be beaten. Air Max, my first pair of that,
They're
I got
not
it.
comfortable and they fit too small.
That's fine. Just because you have a Fred Flintstone foot doesn't mean you be mad at Air
I don't know
Maxes.
what that means.
I don't know, wide and flat. It just feels right.
Wide and flat.
Instead of Fred Flintstone foot.
I will say Air Max 180 is still the best Air Max ever, but that's my opinion.
270s ain't bad.
Y'all aren't going to go?
We don't have time. We'll get
you
there
got
in a
about 20
second.
seconds.
I'm going to respectfully
I got mine
decline
on
because
20
mine
cents.
are embarrassing.
That's the reason you throw them out, which you will
Pass.
do on the other side.
Bowling shoes.
It'll be required. Next on McElroy and Cubelic in
Vestavia
the morning.
Lanes. Red and blue
Will
specials.
they be wet? All right, welcome back in. 8 o'clock hour number 2. McElroy and Cubelic in the morning. Couple folks are sharing theirs. Chris Woodward tweets in, first half, second half points. I'd be glad to see my MSU Bulldogs score some points.
Ooh.
That's fair. Yeah. E. Robinson tweets in, 1, white and cement Jordan 4s in 89. Like you could have got them in 2009 too. Gray and neon Air Max 95s. Those were good. Black Barclays with white air letters. If you're not the original Barclays, the CB4s were legit, both the black and the white. The black and purple I had. But not the ones that said air across, like that everybody wore. Like people call those
No. I know what you're
Pippins
saying.
also. Those are no. But that would be his top 3 that he tweets into the show. John, we're waiting patiently for your list now.
All right. Well, growing up, I wasn't really much of a sneakerhead for two reasons. One, because of the way I walked, I typically would ruin shoes in about a year. So, and plus two, mom was like, if you're getting tennis shoes, you're going to use them for athletic activities,
Everything,
but they're
yeah.
going to be dirty. So you're not going to buy Jordans, or we're not going to get those because you're going to be wearing those all the time and then they'll get dirty. You're not going to like them. So
Okay.
I never really grew up with all of that. So, number 3 for me is Converse One Star Academies. They're kind of, I think the ones I showed you, Cole, like the green ones. They're
Yep.
like Chuck Taylors, but they're a little bit more rugged, low rise. And I've got a dark green with the star is a light green. I wear those from time to time. I really, really dig those, but I bought those like 4 years or so ago. Number 2 is Tommy Hilfiger Brecken. They're all white shoe.
No, that one.
I'm not familiar with the old Hilfiger.
Not surprised. Bought them at that outlet place over in Leeds for $25.
There we
Heck
go.
Yeah.
And
Fire.
I loved them. And number 1, the New Balance 1100s. They are the tennis shoe that looks like a dress shoe. I have them in brown and black, and I wear the expletive out of them.
There we go.
They do look like they do.
The
Kind
New
of
Balance does have
shoes.
some clean shoes. I'll admit.
New Balance has
The-
made a tremendous
the,
comeback.
The New Balance comeback here recently with like the giant sole trying to be Balenciaga, like the fake Balenciaga New Balance. I'm out on those. Sorry.
Come on.
I can't. Not
The
doing it.
960s,
Not doing it. I think it's like
9D60s.
9,067 or something.
What about the one that looks like? What about the one that looks like a Hoka? The fresh
Yeah,
foams.
just they're comfortable. I will say that.
New Balance rips.
Damien.
Yeah, I'm kind of like John. I'm not really much of a sneakerhead, but I do have 3 shoes that I will live and die for. Back in the 4th grade, my mama got me some Stacey Adams, like Gator type. I used to wear it at church all the time. Real shiny. You couldn't tell me nothing in a 3-piece suit.
3P?
Yes, sir.
Wow.
Yes, sir. We were rocking them. But
Frat
they were
daddy.
all black. But that was my go-to. I only wore them for like a year or so, and then I started growing. I went from like 4'11" to about 5'2". Feet started to get a little wide.
Got 'em.
Couldn't rock them as much as I wanted to. Number 2 for me, it's a pair of cowboy boots. I think it's Ariat. They were given to me as a gift. I rocked them a little bit back in the day. And number 1, I used to have these black and gold Jordan 1s back when my alma mater was still alive that I wore in college. Yeah, only wore them a few times, but those are my number 1s.
There you go. Yeah, the Air, going back to E. Robinson's list, the Air Max 95s, I feel like those, the neon and green ones, had those when that's kind of when Air Max really sort of started to take off.
And
The 90s, I feel like, were more popular the second time around than originally when they came out.
yeah,
I'm trying to go back and look at them right now because I still think
I don't remember the timeline that well. I only know it from grades. Like what grade was I in when I was wearing that? I got 1 pair of shoes every year, and I wore that pair of shoes pretty much every day of school.
because I feel like the most popular, like the Air Max 2 that I had, and that was like the 3 air bubbles in the back, like 2 on the side and then 1 in the back, but they weren't connected. Loved the pair of those that I had. The 95s were obviously everybody wanted those, and then the 97s was when it went all the way around the bottom of the shoe, and that's when
right.
it kind of took off. Had a silver pair of those, and then things went downhill for a couple of years, like the 99 through 2008, 9 ish. And then the 2009 is when they kind of came back with, it looked like sort of a fly knit with the air all the way around the bottom.
Yeah.
Got a little bit better, started coming back again.
We got a text
Something
message.
go wrong with Air Max, though.
We got a text message coming in. Drake asked, what about the Patrick Ewings or when the Deons first came out?
The Deons are coming back. Air Diamond Turfs are coming back this year. They're incredible. Those
I gotta see
and
this. Air Diamond Turfs.
Air Diamond Turf, I believe, is what they go by. They're so good. Again, just like was an unattainable shoe, and
Like
then
this one with the little thing across the front.
that's not it. No, it's these right here, right there. Those are them.
Ugh.
And Prime wore them in the game.
Ugh.
You can say what you want. That's fine.
There's a lot going on.
They're not Lucchese's, but yeah, they were big time in back in the day. The Bruce Smith Air trainers that were out too, those were great back in the day because you only had so many shoes that were marketed, and then when somebody had a commercial for them, It just put them on a completely different level. I'm with him. Like the Griffies just came back out, I think 2 years ago. Those were solid. So, yeah, you got a lot of them out there.
But
I feel like sneakers in general have
Patrick
taken.
Ewings are all, I can't do it.
I don't
It's
remember
like,
them.
they look like the Air McFlys. They look like the Marty McFly shoes.
which I would, that might be number one on the list of shoes never owned for me.
But the McFlys?
Yes.
Well, they're only 10 grand. Just go ahead and drop them.
I don't think you could get a pair for that, honestly.
More?
Yes.
Wow.
Oh.
Insane. Why don't you just buy them stock?
Your boy Ingram, the guy who won the raffle one time, I think he offered him 20 grand on Twitter for him.
Wow.
That's a lot.
I'm looking right now on eBay. I think the cheapest pair you can get is $14,000.
Yeah,
For
these
the Nike Air Mags. You just can't get them.
These Patrick Ewings are sneaky awesome.
No, they're not.
I mean, got a lot of
Yeah,
ankle
they are.
support.
I'm about to say, I'm kind of vibing these.
It's like the Reebok black tops that came out a while back. It's like you can go hiking and then you can play basketball. We don't need both at the same time.
Yeah. There was a time when I was probably 10 or 11 years old, like 98, 99, the tennis shoe game was falling by the wayside a little bit. It was not the same as what you grew up with. You grew up in the golden era of tennis shoes.
I'd probably agree with that.
I think you did. I mean, I think the tennis shoes were good, but there was so many more variations that we had when we were in 5th and 6th and 7th grade. Like you could go Nike, but you didn't have to. Like K-Swiss was ripping. You had.
I was ridiculed for a pair of K-Swiss in 8th grade.
K-Swiss were fire there for, I don't recall exactly what the time frame was, but when we were in 6th grade, everybody was rocking K-Swiss.
Wait a second. Amazon has a pair of fake Air Mags for $119.
Aren't the regular Air Max 119?
No, $119.
Yeah, regular Air
For
Max are like
fake Air Mag.
Oh, Air
not
Mags.
Air Mag. I mean, that might be just fun to have, like to kick around in. I feel like
yeah, you
for
can't. They look
$119.
just like them, except for
there's
doesn't have a Nike
there's no
logo.
swoosh on there, and I doubt they mechanically lace up.
No.
God.
Somebody asked Cole, did you own a pair of British Knights?
That's funny. No. Those are up there with the Ewings. The BK ones? No. Terrible.
Yuck.
Awful.
Yeah.
Did you Google those, Greg?
Yeah, those you can have
they're
those.
embarrassing. They're completely embarrassing.
No.
Completely embarrassing.
Those do feel a little like Cole though.
Absolutely not. No.
Ooh, what about this? The Nike Air Trainer SC High Auburn 2022. Ooh, that feels like you.
Hold on. The Air Trainer SC, that's the Bo Jacksons, right?
I don't know. These are ugly though. You should get these.
Dude, those are the Bo Jacksons. Those are legit.
Yeah.
And the orange and blue colors are. It's not an Auburn orange and blue, by the way. It's a royal blue. That's the OG color. Like those are ridiculously.
Yeah, you should definitely get these.
Incredible.
Yeah, you should definitely get them.
I have the Broken Bats version. Google Air Trainer SC Broken Bats. I have those at home right now.
Broken Bats. Okay.
Ugh.
Oh, that's pretty clean.
Look at the tongue.
Yeah, like
It's like the Tecmo version of Bo Jackson when he's
pretty
playing
hard.
baseball. It's sweet.
got the 16 on the back.
Yeah, those
Yeah,
are,
they ain't
those
that
are
bad.
legit.
You can sell them for $1,000 or
No way.
$565.
Where? They can have them.
They got-
Have them for $500.
StockX.
So you could keep. I mean, they're not brand new,
Who
but
cares?
lightly used. Hit me up. Slide into my DMs. You can have them for $500 right now,
Love that.
right this second.
Condition. Oh yeah, no, those are new. $565 for new.
Okay.
Somebody asked me-
I got a pair of Air Mags here for $32,000. Oh, $24,000 on GOAT. That's a steal.
Oh, yeah.
Imagine having that much money where you'd spend that on shoes.
You got any pair of Scottie Pippins?
No.
I never did the Pippins, no, but there are a couple of pair that were okay.
Actually, I think
they
I
were
might have
fine.
had those one year for basketball.
Not the Scottie P's.
They were never his shoes though. They were always like the shoes that all the kids in the NCAA tournament wore. They were like team issued shoes, but he wore them. I don't think they ever like. I don't
The
think,
one with the air on the
I
side?
don't think he ever had. That was one. I don't think he ever had his own signature
His own.
shoe though. So here's the bad part. Oh, these do go to 13. That still might be a little snug, but we would try it. We would sneak into it.
I think I
the
did.
Air Mags at a 13.
I think I might have had these when I was playing as a kid.
Okay.
These right here.
Heavily discounted Air Max for $28,000.
Those.
That's it.
Okay.
The Scottie Pippen shoe. Those look familiar to me.
The Air Max
Nike
Up-Tempo.
Air Pippen 1.
Look up the Air Max Up-Tempo. That was one that I know that Pippen wore. And I think like UConn wore that the year they won a national championship. Those were pretty sweet. Usually, though, the team, not the ones with the air on the side. The ones
Dude, I had the
like
Nike Air Pippen 2s.
the white on the
Attaboy.
top, black on the bottom. Those are solid.
I had these too. Golly. That was when I was on the Rockets.
So they did name them Air Pippins at a
Yeah,
time?
Nike
I
Air
didn't ever
Pippen
do
2.
that.
That was what we rocked with the Rockets.
There we
Team
go.
shoe.
You played for the Houston Rockets?
No.
Oh,
South Lake.
gotcha. I thought y'all were the Dragons.
No, this is our AAU team.
Oh. How many minutes you get in that league?
All of them.
You the AAU guy?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Travel hoop.
Hmm.
Didn't last long.
You had to focus on football. Lock in.
Basketball is a waste of time. Son, if you're lucky, you'll be 6'3". Sounds good.
Nice combo guard.
It was your height that wouldn't let it go through?
Were you like a Kyle Korver, JJ Redick on the floor?
No.
What'd you model your game after? What player
Mac
comp?
McClung.
Wow. You contributed without being on teams?
In a perfect world, yes.
Above
Go
the rim.
to the Air Max DT 96. Those are the Deons that just came back out this year, and see if you like those more than the others, more than the Air Diamond Turf, which I can't believe you guys don't like, but that's fine. You had to be alive then, I guess. Those are the Deons that came back out this year.
Yeah, those don't do it for me.
No,
Nah.
I can't help you guys then. Go check out some Zions then. Your Sabrina
can't help you guys.
Monscusco, whatever that is. Go check out some of
Got
those.
some Zion.
Go check out the Steph 11s.
The Steph 11s are bright.
Stupid Under Armours.
Wow.
So yeah, your soul might fall out,
There
but
ain't
you
a
look
pair.
good.
There's not a pair of Under Armours you could give me right now.
You're not rocking
Well,
the Cam Newtons?
What's your boy Romo? What does he wear?
Skechers.
Zippers? Skechers. Yeah.
Zipper.
What?
Zippers.
That'd be a tough call. If somebody said right now you could wear Skechers or Under Armour the rest of your life, which direction would you go?
Skechers lock.
Cole, would you go shoeless?
Fred
It might be
Flintstone
shoeless
feet.
Co Jackson. This is going to be good. Put him on. I can't wait to hear this. Domer, top 3 shoes all time. Go.
Top 3? Well, I was going to tell you my favorite pair growing up that I had.
Original Chuck Taylors.
No, I'm going to paint a picture for you.
Elise
2004.
tennis shoes.
Filas.
Look, 2004, sophomore year. I got the all-white Kobe number 8 jersey, and I'm rocking the Iversons Reebok shoes, man.
The original Iversons were pretty good. I will give you that.
Dude, the Iversons
The
were so
Iversons.
fire.
Yeah, they were good.
Look, man, when I had them shoes on, I averaged at least 6 points a game.
In your driveway?
You couldn't touch me, man. You couldn't touch. I led Chelsea
They were
High
good.
School to a 4-17 record.
There we go.
Yeah.
Rocking the Iversons, man.
I definitely
you
had
can't-
I had the answers. Yeah, I had these
Those were
for
good.
sure.
Those were good shoes.
The
There's no doubt.
all-white Iversons had the chrome. Oh, yeah, man.
Oh,
Had
yeah,
the
he was
all-white
big
Kobe.
time. He was big time when they made that playoff run, and there was literally no one else on the team except for him, and he beat Kobe-led Lakers. I think, what was it, 01 or 02? Dude, we were
Yep,
wearing
yep.
the finger bands. Remember the finger wristbands?
I wore those shoes to church, man. You couldn't take them off of them.
Yeah,
They're the
it held the
best.
2 fingers together like
Yeah.
it was broken or something. Nobody really needed it. but-
No, it was for sweat on your fingers.
Yeah, but see, Allen Iverson was such. See, honestly, I was a big Kobe fan, but I'm like a good 5'5", so Allen Iverson was a role model. All of us laterally challenged basketball players. So, but yeah, he was kind of the Steph before Steph. Kind of gave us small people hope.
Yeah,
He was so good.
Totally different style player, but yeah, he was awesome. I mean, he was just fun to watch.
Yeah.
And he would challenge
Yeah,
anybody.
he was
Didn't
great.
matter.
Man. That was the heyday of NBA basketball. I'm not gonna lie to you. Back in those days, I loved basketball, NBA basketball, more than I did college football. It was my favorite sport to watch.
That
man.
was
When
I
Kobe
think
and Tatum-
Iverson was the tail end of it. The tail end of the best
Yeah.
era.
Yeah, you had the Spurs on their heyday. You had Iverson. You had Kobe. You had the Shaq era running out. I mean, you had the Kings when Kobe and Shaq was going against the Kings. I mean, it was some really good, entertaining basketball, and that was the good old glory days, man. We didn't know we were living the glory days until they're gone.
No, I would agree. And you caught the tail end of you had like a minute of magic with the Lakers, and you had Jordan obviously in his era.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie to you, Magic that was before me. I didn't catch any of that. I didn't even catch much of Michael, to be honest with you. I really didn't get into the NBA until the heyday of Kobe. That was kind of what got me into it. So early 2000s, man, I was locked in. So, and basketball is actually my number one sport. I coach girls basketball and I love it. So, but yeah, the NBA, man, that was where it was at.
There you go. Don't appreciate the call.
Do you ever have any of the answer fours?
Search. I didn't have those. Search Air Command Force. I wanted these so bad.
Air Command.
These were David Robinson shoes back in the day, and you had to get like a CO2 cartridge to pump them up in the back. You had to
wow.
You had to stick it in the back of the thing right there.
These look like a ski boot.
They're monstrous. They are gargantuan.
Wow.
And you had to get like the little CO2 pump, and you stuck it in the heel right there, and that's how you pumped the shoes up.
Okay.
They pumped up. The ones that were like neon green on the bottom.
Golly,
of the back,
shoes in the 90s,
they're just
early
gigantic,
90s are so
gigantic,
dumb.
That's and I mean they were like $185. I was never going to get them, but I just remember being like, I saw them in Just for Feet, and I was like, God, I want those so bad. And then they came out with the running shoe, and then Reebok had the like Hexalite running shoes. You had to have the little CO2 thing till you stuck it in there and pushed the thing, and it pumped them up.
Amazing.
Yeah, that was mid 90s shoes, man. It is a different deal. Different deal. Russell Terry asked, was Greg a gym rat, coach on the floor? Did
Absolutely.
you slap the floor on defense?
Yes.
You should have been fired at that moment.
No, didn't slap the floor on defense. Didn't play defense.
Anybody
Outside shooter.
Yeah. The Brian Scalabrine.
Play defense.
That's it.
Brian Scalabrine.
Like Ray LaFrance. Just played around the perimeter.
Hey, Ray Friends could go at Kansas now.
A little bit of a liability on defense.
Saw him practice before he lost at the BJCC. Him and Scott Pollard, who painted his fingernails. He was Caleb Williams before Caleb Williams.
Oh boy.
It just was what it was. Jacques Vaughn running the point. They were good, but they lost.
Ray LaFrance was ripping.
Yep, back in the day. All right, we got to get to it. Reebok Shaq Gnosis. Houston Love tweets those in. I could never do it. I couldn't do it.
Shaq Gnosis?
They're a popular shoe, but they just didn't know.
Which ones?
The OG Shaqs were legit. The Shaq Pumps original were legit. Shaq Gnosis was the name of the shoes.
Lord,
yeah,
no.
they're awful. They're terrible. I'm sorry, I can't do that.
Shaq Gnosis. I don't know these ones.
It ain't a good look.
Yeah, you can Google the original Shaq Attack, which came out. The like the turquoise and black. I think they hold up today. I think they're still strong. Not that I would wear them today, but I think they're still good. But yeah. So there you go.
Now you got me
Shaq
down.
Gnosis are just bad. I couldn't.
Shaq never had a good shoe.
And any of the Reebok black tops that came out, awful. Couldn't do it.
Ugh.
Not going to do it.
Ugh.
So didn't need a basketball shoe to be that rugged. When we come back, Trevor Sikkema tells us about day one of the Senior Bowl right after this on Mac and Cube in the morning. 8:22, Wednesday, January 29th, McElroy, Cubelic in the morning. I think we're going to have to move on from sneakers, although I think a lot of people have been interested in this conversation. So a nice top three by McElroy in his debut today.
Never a doubt.
Pudgy Mortgage tweets in, must have in the late 80s, early 90s, all white K-Swiss, Wallabies, duck boots.
See, the Wallabies, I missed that run. That must have been an Alabama thing.
That wasn't for me. The duck boots came later in life for me, not in school.
Still never owned a pair of duck boots.
I think we had
nothing against them, just never owned one.
I think we had this conversation on Three Man Front when I was a part of that show.
Yeah.
The suede bass shoes.
The what?
I think John will remember these. Do you remember these, John?
Oh, yeah.
The tan suede bass
Loafers,
shoes.
maybe?
Loafers,
almost?
bass loafers.
Yeah.
They were tan colored. I'm talking like 97% of the kids at Homewood High School, males had these. Eastland Buck Oxfords.
Eastland?
Right
Yeah,
here.
Oxford. Yeah,
These right here.
that was it.
Buck.
Yeah.
Oxford?
Yeah, they're just super.
The one in the middle?
No, right here. The suede ones.
Oh,
Yeah,
God.
The sole looked a little bit different back in the day. It was more casual.
Ugh. What'd you wear those with? Jeans?
I would never be caught dead in those.
They were the uppity version of Doc Martens, like the
But I'm
exact
just-
opposite of Doc
I was about to
kids.
say, I had Doc Martens.
They had a little
Yeah.
green tag on the back. I'm just telling you,
Like, I owned these shoes right here. Those Doc Martens or whatever.
and
Like,
what grunge band were you playing in when you had those?
I don't know. You just wore them.
Was that-
It was in like,
were you
I don't
in a-
know.
were
But
you
like
in a-
1998.
You're in a Nirvana cover
Speaking
band?
of painting your fingernails black. Okay. All right.
No, I wore Doc Martens. At least I didn't wear like suede freaking grandpa shoes.
Just told you I would never be caught dead in those shoes. But 95% of the males at my high school did have those shoes.
Did Landry have them?
Oh, like
No, he didn't have
I don't know
one.
I don't know if he had another pair
Yeah.
of shoes.
He didn't have one. Yeah, he had multiple.
Yeah, ask him about those shoes with his choir outfit in middle school and see how that goes. Trevor
Wow.
Sycamore is covering the Senior Bowl. He joins us now. Did you have a pair of suede bass shoes? Do you even know what those are?
No
Loafers
chance he
back
had
in the
those.
days? You're a Florida guy, so
Nah,
probably not.
Yeah, I mean, you guys, I can't pull off suede like that. And honestly, like just hearing you guys talk about shoes, I tried to do like the big skater shoes when I was in high school.
Yeah.
But the problem is, I got tiny ankles, so like it made me look like a cartoon character. So that's probably like the last time that I actually seriously tried to get shoes that I like because I looked like an idiot. So.
No, that's another one.
I had an airwalk phase.
I
in
had
middle school, no doubt.
I never had the Airwalk phase. We had soaps. You ever heard of
I don't-
soaps?
I don't
That's where
know
you have
soaps,
you have the little plastic in the middle so you could grind on like rails.
No,
and,
you did
Oh,
not.
100%.
Oh yeah.
So you were doing
100%.
You were doing parkour before parkour was a thing.
Yeah, I mean, we'd have like wax in our backpack. We'd have like wax in our backpack, and you'd like do it. Oh, 100%, 100%.
TNC surf shop in your backpack.
They were called
What are you
soaps.
doing?
Soaps, dude.
Amazing.
They were fire.
All right, Trevor. Day one. It feels like some of the analysis of Jalen Milroe's day is a little bit all over the place. Some people impressed with him physically. Some people, I guess, go a little bit further and see some struggles. How would you grade or describe the former Alabama quarterback's day in Mobile?
Honestly, I thought it was a lot of the same. Like my opinion of Jalen Milroe really didn't move at all whatsoever from yesterday's practice, and that could be seen as a good and a bad. I think on the good side of it, yeah, he's clearly got the best arm of any quarterback here. I mean, he's got a twitched up throwing motion. The ball can rocket off of his hand. Obviously a great athlete when he's kind of tucking it to run on some of these team drills. So physically, yeah, I mean, he absolutely looks the part, and he looks like a guy who's got an NFL caliber arm, but there were also the bad, which we've seen from him over the last couple of years, and that's the ball placement and accuracy inconsistencies. Now, the thing that we learned this week, which I think is a little bit of a negative for him that I did not know was going to be the case, is his hand size is well below NFL average. In fact, his 8 3/4 inch hand size is just second percentile for the NFL. And when you think about it, constructually, what that means towards his game, because some people go like, well, okay, who cares if you have small hands? What does it matter? Well, the reason why it matters is because the smaller hand that you have, the further on the ball you have to go on the back end of it to grip it properly. And so that gives it a little bit of wobble to it just naturally if you're not able to grip the ball closer to the middle. And with Jalen Milroe, his throwing motion is so twitched up. It's so fast that when you don't have that kind of big hand grip and control on the ball, that's where you could see some of these little accuracy issues that could show up, these little ball placement issues that we have seen over the last couple of years. And so that was the thing that actually stood out to me the most about Jalen Milroe over the last couple of days is something that I now have concerns about going forward. Is this might just be a physical thing with him, of he might just be a little bit inaccurate, and you got to kind of live with it.
What are the scouts saying as far as their interviews with him? And what's kind of been the buzz around him and his personality and things like that? What have you heard there?
Well, I haven't heard anything specifically this week, but I have heard plenty over the last couple of months as I've been, trying to talk to people within the league, see what they think about with Jalen Milroe. And it's always rave reviews. I mean, they love the kid. I think that's why you're so willing to invest something like a high pick into him, because not only do you see the talent, not only does he physically look like an NFL type of a quarterback in terms of that overall arm talent, that rocket explosion that he has off of his wrist, but also they believe in the work ethic. They believe that this kid wants to be great, that he's going to do whatever it takes. Whatever the ceiling is for Jalen Milroe, it feels as though NFL teams believe he's going to work to be able to get to that point. And so then it just comes down to a matter of what you think his ceiling is. So when it comes to just who he is, it feels like we've got rave reviews of his work ethic, who he is as a leader, how his teammates like him, all that stuff. And so that'll certainly help as well, because when you talk about drafting a quarterback, it's not just what they do on the field, it's how they represent their franchise. And Jalen Milroe seems like a kid who's going to really represent a franchise well if he gets that chance.
All right, let's go to just kind of some winners from yesterday. Guys maybe you didn't expect, guys that you knew would. Who stood out most to you at any position group yesterday?
I think the biggest winner yesterday was North Dakota State offensive lineman Gray Zabel. I mean, he was a beast yesterday. Now, he played offensive tackle for the last 2 years for North Dakota State. Anybody that knows anything about college football knows what kind of powerhouse program they are in the FCS and how they have sent multiple offensive linemen to the NFL. Dylan Radin, Cody Mock, these guys have become starters at the NFL level. Gray Zabel might be the best one yet. Like I mentioned, he played tackle the last 2 years, but here at the Senior Bowl, just because of measurements and kind of how he's built, we figured that interior spots would probably be his most likely setting in the NFL. And they played him at center. They played him at right guard. They played him at left guard. I did not see him lose a one-on-one rep. And Greg, and Cole, you know this, like, a one-on-one rep day one of an all-star event, it's supposed to lean towards the defensive line winning. Like, that's how the event is set up. And then, the offensive lineman will normally come back day two, and it's like, all right, well, I've seen this guy's moves before. I know what he does. You're able to adjust. Gray Zabel, I don't think he lost a rep yesterday, and that was unbelievably impressive to me. So he played very well. South Carolina defensive tackle, TJ Sanders, I thought was really able to stand out. He showcased some power along with the finesse that we've seen from his good pass rusher over the last couple of years on his tape at South Carolina. Jack Besh from the wide receiver spot at TCU, formerly of LSU. He looked very smooth. He looked good out there. And then Miami tight end Elijah Arroyo. We're trying to figure out who the third best tight end is in this class. You got Tyler Warren at the top. You got Colston Loveland from Michigan right behind him. Who's going to be that tight end three? It looked like the 6'4", 250-pound receiving tight end Arroyo made a good case for that yesterday.
You know what's wild, Trevor? All the guys you described, I think Greg and I, and I'm speaking for Greg here a little bit, we would just describe them as good football players. Like, it's not the combine guys. It's not the super twitch stuff. It's like TJ Sanders, he can just play football. Yep. Elijah Arroyo, he's just good at, now he can run, but he's just good at football. And it's good to, Jack Best, same thing. He's not going to outrun anybody. I couldn't believe LSU let him walk because I just thought he was so valuable to what they did, and just the little things, intangibles that he brought. And it's good to see those guys kind of sticking out. I want to stick with the offensive line for a moment. It was probably the worst possible matchup for Deion Walker yesterday because pad level is going to be an issue with him. But I saw highlights of USC's Willie Lampkin, who I absolutely love, but he's under 6 feet tall. Like, can he get drafted?
He absolutely can get drafted, especially from what I saw yesterday. I'm not going to lie. I look at the measurables and, hey, he is graded out very well, PFF. Like, we have loved him. He's sort of a PFF darling. But then you look at the measurables, he's 5'10", 270 pounds for an offensive lineman. I mean, that's about as 0th percentile as it gets for an offensive lineman at the pro level. He almost feels like he's like a center fullback in a Kyle Shanahan system or something.
How great would that be? Like, use him as a hybrid out there. He's so good. He can play though, man. Like, he gets people blocked and downfield. 100%. Like, he's a finisher. He cleans
that
up.
Matters?
Like, I love the kid, man.
Why does that matter?
Dude,
Why would you want guys that block people when you can have guys that look the part, like Robert Gallery and who's the guy from Michigan State, the big meathead?
Tony Mandarich?
Yeah, Mandarich.
Cole, I saw your tweet yesterday, and I agree completely. Leverage is king, and at 5 foot, you're always kind of playing with fire a little bit. You're figuring out, all right, well, how small is too small for the NFL level? And you would think that 5'10" is too small for the NFL level, but when you play with that sort of fiery competitiveness that Lampkin does, I mean, he wins with natural leverage every single snap. The hand placement is fantastic. The footwork can mirror very well. I mean, you mentioned, he went up against Deion Walker, and a lot of people look at Deion Walker and they just go, wow, the measurables, you got to draft this guy. He's unbelievable. One, Deion Walker had a little bit disappointing of a year this past year, relative to expectations. And two, Lampkin just outworked him. He outworked him every time he went up against him. And like you guys are kind of joking about, but not joking about, because I agree with you. You want to pick football players that are actually good at the game of football. And Willie Lampkin's good at the game of football. So, Yes, from what we saw on day one, I think this kid's getting drafted. Absolutely.
What about some of the other quarterbacks there? Everyone raving about Dylan Gabriel's arm strength, which I'm a little surprised by. Some of the other aspects of what you've evaluated amongst that group of 8, who's kind of stood out to you, and maybe who has some work to do?
Yeah, so the Dylan Gabriel thing, the way that it has since been explained to me, because he had the highest miles per hour on his throw, is that I guess the velocity is registered when the ball leaves his hand. So it's not like 20 yards down the field, it's still got that miles per hour rating to it, probably where you would want to judge arm strength on a player. But it makes sense that Dylan Gabriel would have a fast football coming out of his hands because of how compact it is, how good his release is, and how pretty of a ball he throws. So that part makes sense. I would definitely not say that he has the strongest arm out here,
no. But
I do think that Dylan Gabriel has a decent arm, and I don't think that it's terrible like some people say. So I thought that he had a fine day. The guy that really stood out to me is, well, there were 2 quarterbacks that everybody really wanted to see, right? Jalen Milroe, and then the other one's Jackson Dart. Jackson Dart is seen by some as a top 5, top 3 quarterback in this class, and they really wanted to see, okay, well, what's he like away from Lane Kiffin's system? And there were some throws that we saw yesterday that showcased the natural arm talent from him. But I'll tell you a detail that really was something that I think goes under the radar that you do have to pay attention to. He played 9 snaps under center over the last 2 years. See, out of 943 total dropbacks that he had, 9 of them came under center. He had 2 or 3 fumbles yesterday playing from under center. So he's just not used to it. So if you're drafting Jackson Dart, I think you got to understand that unless you are a Zach Taylor, Brian Callahan type of a shotgun only system, that's going to be an actual talking point. And it's not something that you could go, he'll figure it out. I mean, maybe he will, but we saw some struggles of it yesterday in one day, having 3 fumbles. I mean, that's not ideal, especially in the area where scouts want to see you be more consistent and show some more versatility in how you can take the football every play. So to me, those were sort of the 2 guys in Milroe and Dart that I was really paying attention to a lot. The Taylor Elgström kid, the kid from Laurel, the kid from Canada, he had a couple of nice throws. I'll continue to watch him today. Riley Leonard, I think looked the most ready for this event, but of course, because he was playing football a week ago, right? I mean, there's been no time off for Riley Leonard, so he's just right back to it. He just puts on the helmet and is doing what he needs to do. So it was sort of a quiet day for the quarterbacks, but we'll see if they get to ramp it up here on day 2.
Yeah, and Trevor just answered the age-old question of why don't they go under center at the goal line for shotgun football teams? That's your answer right there, because they don't practice it, and they would fumble those snaps if they got down near the goal line. So, Trevor, great stuff, man. Appreciate the time. Enjoy your week in Mobile. We'll have you back soon.
I appreciate it, guys. Anytime.
Take care. Trevor Sycamore with PFF joining us there on the Buyers Right Hotline down in Mobile. And even with Trevor, Greg, it feels like the Jalen Milroe discussion, the Jalen Milroe analysis is still going to be a little bit all over the place.
Yeah, all over the place. He's a polarizing prospect. I think he probably will continue to be. And partly because, one, he has had remarkable bouts of inconsistency. And 2, the high side is absurd, like absurdly good. So if you knew what you were going to get, it's another level. And people that have compared, well, his game is comparable to that of Lamar Jackson. No, it's not. Lamar Jackson didn't have the downside. He didn't have the performances where you're left like, what the heck was that? So I don't think he's anywhere near the prospect from a consistency standpoint that you often see get drafted in the top 5 or 6, but it's changed so much now where it's so much about upside and like, hey, they'll take a guy high, and if he can't play in a couple of years, they'll get rid of him. It's all about the upside. So I think it's going to be fascinating to see where he ends up. All it takes one though, 1 out of 32 to like him, and he's got a home and be in good shape.
Yep. So we'll keep you updated on the Senior Bowl. Anything else coming out of it, and anything else that we're hearing from players down in Mobile. We told you earlier in the show that we were going to take these top 100 games of the year and re-break down each game, go through the list here in the offseason. Number 1, Alabama Vanderbilt. We'll begin to discuss that one on the other side. First, I got to tell you about Game Day Men's Health. If you're feeling on edge, if you're lacking sleep, you lack energy, could be the effects of low testosterone, and Game Day Men's Health wants to help you. Go to GameDayMen'sHealth.com now. Sign up for a free consultation. No money. You go in, you get the PSA test, you get the testosterone test for free, so they have an idea where you stand. Then some of these issues, they may be able to provide some possible answers for you. And if you take advantage of those answers, they're going to be a minimal upfront cost for the programs that they offer. And you can save an extra 10% on those programs by mentioning Cube when you walk in the front door. GameDayMen'sHealth.com. Go in, great people, locker room environment, stress-free, not going to try to force you into anything. Also, weight loss programs. If the holidays were not nice to your waist, they want to help you get rid of some of those pounds at Game Day Men's Health. Go to GameDayMen'sHealth.com today. Just sign up for the free consultation. See what they can potentially do for you. We'll begin to break down that game next on McElroy and Cubelic in the morning. Welcome back in. McElroy and Cubelic in the morning, Wednesday, January 29th, 8:43 a.m. right here on Jocks 94.5.
Bill Smith Buick GMC is the GMC Dealer of the Year. They're the national champion 7 times. They've won that distinguished honor, and they've won it 4 years in a row. It's because people continue to be blown away by the deals they have when they walk on the lot. The inventory is unlike that of anywhere else, and the deals that you'll get are unmatched. They will blow other people away. You are costing yourself money if you shop somewhere other than Bill Smith Buick GMC. And go get yourself a GMC Yukon XL 4-wheel drive Denali. It's a black Onyx, beautiful Denali XL. The interior is teak, that light shale. It's a beautiful vehicle. They will take $10,000 off the sticker price. You get that vehicle for $86,610. That's $10,000 off the sticker of a Yukon Denali XL. It's deals like that keep coming back. That's why 75% of their business is repeat customers. It's because you have a better experience when you shop with Bill Smith. Take a short drive to Coleman. Be glad you did. You can also shop online. Have it delivered right to your driveway at BillSmithBuickGMC.com.
All right, to Alabama Vanderbilt. If you missed it, Bill Connolly released his top 100 games of the 2024 season. This one was number 1. We're just going to go through them, rewatch them, put the film back on, go see if anything looks extremely different. Go see if anything sort of sticks out as to not exactly what we took away the first time around. We'll obviously look at these games in a very different light than we did, having a little bit of emotion in the moment of how things went down. 40-35, Alabama loses on the road. Jalen Milroe, 18-24, 310 yards, a touchdown, an interception. My thought on the interception changed a little bit watching this game also. That was one thing. Pavia was 16-20, 252, 2 touchdowns. He ran 20 times for 56 yards. Cedric Alexander, 21 for 64, 2 touchdowns. Eli Stowers, a big game, 6 for 113 receiving. Ryan Williams, 3 for 82. Alabama rushed 21 times for 84 yards. Vandy, 54 for 166. And if you recall, that time of possession was something that was massive in this game. 42-08 to 17-52. Third downs, Vandy 12 of 18, Bama 3 of 6. 418 to 394 was your total yard differential. So rushing yards, third down conversions, time of possessions, Bama 2 turnovers, Vandy didn't turn it over, kind of the story of the game. But the film, Greg, what stuck out to you maybe a little bit different this time than the first time around?
I guess I had forgotten a little bit just how disastrous it was on third down. How few offensive snaps Alabama had. They averaged nearly 9 yards per play. And to lose the game when you're averaging nearly 9 yards per play is insane. But it was in large part due to the few amount of snaps that they had offensively and how good Vandy was on third down. I had forgotten this, but it was absurd to be 13 of 18 on third down and on the fourth down attempt to hit the deep ball over the top that was a 3% chance of likely being connected. I mean, Pavia played out of his mind, absolutely out of his mind. And while the linebackers were certainly seeing things, and they definitely were a step ahead with where things were, trying to read the play and trying to identify where the football was and all that stuff. It was really more about the situational. Like they got on the third down a bunch.
Yeah.
They just couldn't get off the field.
Yep.
And I had just kind of forgotten how bad that was and how agonizing and demoralizing that would be as a player on the sideline.
Some of the things stuck out to me. I'll go to the Alabama offensively. I thought the timing of a lot of the throws was off. Like I went back and watched that interception and I kept running it back. And I don't think that I thought that ball was as late as it was. Yeah. The first time that I watched the game, I just thought it was more of a good play, which it was still a great play defensively, to be able to jar the ball free. And then obviously the interception in the return, but there was a little bit of an extra hitch and sort of an adjustment in the pocket that I'm not really sure maybe needed.
Wasn't
to be
necessary.
Yeah. And so that ball just a little bit behind. And there were a lot of throws that maybe I did not notice the first time around that I did watching it again last night. And then also on defense, some of the things really stuck out. We knew the linebackers were lost in that game.
Yes.
I didn't realize it was 2 or 3 steps taking themselves out of play. Like I always thought it was like a step left, a step right, a step up that maybe forced them not to be able to make a play. But it was, they ran themselves out of play, not stepped themselves out of plays. And then the edge defender is just not a great day. You're playing the option to get sucked down inside. a step or two. Once again, it's kind of similar to linebackers is okay, but to wash all the way down and then have to try to recover back out in the flat. Also, not getting quarterback to the ground. I mean, they had a couple free runs at Pavia and couldn't get him to the ground.
Couldn't do it.
And he made them pay on those plays.
You really think about it, like on third down, to have 18 third down attempts and to average 7 yards, 3rd and 7. That was their average. And they converted 77% of the 3rd and 4th downs. 4 of their 5 touchdowns scored were on 3rd or 4th down. It was like a perfect storm.
It was.
You know what I mean? It was like one of those situations where everything that could go wrong did. And that's why I think it's really more of, it was a lot like the team that I was on. I mean, it was a lot like the game against South Carolina, where one team could do no wrong and the other team just couldn't make the important plays, the big play to get off the field, the pass breakup to knock the ball away in a contested catch situation, make one guy miss and you're out the gate. Our guys couldn't do it. Their guys did. It was just really remarkable to kind of watch it back and to see just, if they played that game 100 times, it would not have ended like that. You could not have been that flawless. It just wouldn't happen.
You know, that's the thing that goes in. You mentioned how it went. It's also execution of almost being perfect. I mean, you have to have that execution to go with it. Vanderbilt did. We're in the middle of flu season. Make your home healthier with Trane's Clean Effects Home Air Cleaner. Removes up to 99.9% of airborne particles, including those that cause virus. 100 times more effective than standard air filters. 8 times more effective than HEPA room filters. Find a dealer near you at Trane.com. It's hard to stop a train. We'll continue discussing this game and watching the film back again next on McElroy and Cubelic in the morning. Is this Puddle of Mud?
That is correct.
Blurry.
They had one other song, right? And that was
Correct.
like it.
Yeah.
This hit back in the day.
One
It's a
bad.
banger.
Yeah.
See me. They just kind of
Yeah,
went.
sounds just like
they
it,
just
yeah.
kind of went away.
Eh,
But there are also 77 bands that sounded just like this.
more or less, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
True life.
Had that discussion on the show a couple months ago.
Yeah, we did. I
Yeah,
think it was a
yeah.
different era of bands, but yes,
They were on the
deal.
tail end. Right.
Right, got it.
Never guess who directed this video.
Fred Durst.
Correct.
Yeah, he had his hand in a lot of their
He did,
stuff
yeah,
going
yeah.
on.
Those red caps don't buy themselves.
Mm.
Listen, you can make fun of them just like you can Nickelback all you want, but those guys collected a lot of checks,
Collecting still probably.
Still?
About to say.
I imagine.
but not near the
No, but
with the commas that they
they're
did for a
they're
minute.
yacht rocks, and then there's some dads that still haven't let it go and probably still enjoy it to this day.
It shows up in a workout playlist every now and then for me.
Yeah.
Some of the Limp Bizkit stuff, break stuff. I think is one of them.
It doesn't
Correct,
do
yeah.
much for
Yeah,
me.
they'll show up. Oh, of course not. You're more of a Jonas Brothers guy.
Yeah, techno.
Tell our listeners
EDM.
about Polar Bear Services.
Polar Bear Services is great. Wes and the guys have taken great care of me for a long time. Very grateful to everybody over at Polar Bear Services who have continued to make sure that our HVAC system is running properly. They've taken care of us during the flu season. They've taken care of us during the cold weather season. And then the summer, when things start to get hot, your AC is going to be running really smoothly. They've also now recently added plumbing to their arsenal of ways that they can help you around the house. So definitely, if you have problems with your plumbing, remember, if you have a problem with your electrical, plumbing, heat, or air, pick up the phone and call the Bear. It's 205-497-BEAR. It's 497-BEAR.
All right, going back to Alabama Vanderbilt, quickly before we head off to our break, and we'll welcome in Zach Berman to talk Super Bowl. He covers the Eagles next. Middle of the field, thought Alabama could have done it a little bit more. They had a lot of success there. Unblocked defenders for Vanderbilt, Greg. The amount of times Alabama looked like they had space, looked like they had a play, and then a linebacker shows up to make a play, a corner comes off, make a play, and they're just untouched, unblocked. Too many of those in the game.
And how many broken tackles? I mean, I don't feel like Alabama was able to make anybody miss the whole game. I mean,
Not
yards
many,
after
no.
contact, yards after catch, yards after the touch. It was few and far between there in that game.
Yep. The physicality was matched for the most part by Vanderbilt, which when you just think about the two sides of the football, the two rosters, is a little bit surprising. Probably should not have gone that way if you just measure the tape for each side. Either way, we'll measure the tape of the Super Bowl with Zach Berman next on McElroy and Cubelic in the morning. Hour number 3 now underway. Wednesday, January 29th, 9 a.m. McElroy and Cubelic in the morning. Michael Kirby tweets in, us 80s kids know about the high top ponies. I never had a pair of ponies. Greg Holsey tweets in, can we get a link to the infamous comment about what makes a good or bad coach based on first and second half points? It's out there on Twitter somewhere, Greg. My handle will be in it if you would like to go locate it. That's how it was laid out to me. You're only a good coach if you score more points in the second half than the first half.
I never
That's
heard
how
that.
the local Alabama media had described it to us. And that one coach should be fired solely based on that. You can find it. It's out there. And we're never going to let it go.
What about how you start the game?
I thought that's not important.
No.
Second half points.
Your
That's
week
all
of
that
game
matters.
planning.
No.
None of that matters. Recruiting?
No. Second half points versus first half points is how you determine if a coach is good or bad. Zach Berman does not use those tactics. He covers the Philadelphia Eagles for multiple outlets, has for a long time. Zach, we appreciate you taking some time to join us. With extra time, what do you anticipate the overall health of this football team looking like for the Super Bowl? Because obviously the big discussion was Jalen Hurts going into the NFC Championship game, and I think maybe he and then the offensive line will probably be more of that discussion coming out of it.
I would anticipate them being far healthier going into the Super Bowl. Certainly Landon Dickerson and Cam Jurgens in particular on the offensive line, need these 2 weeks to get healthier. Jalen Hurts is going to be in a much better spot 2 weeks from now. And the other thing to pay attention to is Brandon Graham, who's one of the great leaders of the team, one of the great players in franchise history. There's a chance he could be back for the Super Bowl as well. So I think I don't think injuries will be much of a factor for the Eagles outside of guys like Nakobe Dean who are out for the season.
What do you make of the offensive approach last week and some of the comments made by Jalen Hurts after the fact, where it's like he was finally allowed to do some things and be a little more aggressive offensively, and the result was 55 points and a great rushing output. What do you make of that comment and how that might factor into Super Bowl game plan?
Yeah, so Jalen Hurts said that he finally got the straitjacket taken off of him. Nick Sirianni said Jalen was just having some fun there. I imagine there was, some truth to that. Look, this is kind of the arc of the Eagles season, is that they were turnover prone the first 4 games. They were in the red those first 4 games. Jalen was turning the ball over too much. They were 2-2. During the bye week, a major point of emphasis was cutting down the turnovers and leaning on the running game and playing relatively conservative on offense, even with A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith as the wide receivers. Since the bye, so you're talking about the first game back in the bye was week 6, early October. Jalen Hurts has thrown 1 interception, right? The Eagles have been outstanding in the turnover department, and they've only lost 1 game. But part of that is that Jalen's numbers are not as prolific as they were 2 years ago when they went to the Super Bowl, and probably not as prolific as they could be. And Jalen always says that he only cares about winning. But when you're a franchise quarterback, and I'll defer to you here, Greg, is that you want to be the reason why you win, not just like part of a winning team. And so Jalen has always said that just because they don't do it doesn't mean they can't. And so to answer the question specifically, what you saw in the conference championship is what this offense is capable of when Jalen's allowed to go downfield more, when he's effective against the blitz. And now that wasn't a particularly good defense that they faced, but I think going into the Super Bowl, I'll say this: I've covered Jalen's entire career here in Philly. I've seen some good games. He hasn't played a better game than he did in the Super Bowl 2 years ago against Mahomes and the Chiefs. And knowing Jalen, I would imagine that he's going to be a big stage player this week, or I should say next weekend.
Zach Berman covers the Philadelphia Eagles. You can follow him on Twitter @ZBerm. Saquon's been incredible. There's not really another way to describe it. I think we would mostly agree on it. There were a couple of teams that found ways to limit him somewhat. You could go maybe Pittsburgh, Dallas, Cleveland, and then some of that would just be other options that were there offensively that you took. Is there a part of what Kansas City offers up defensively that should be worrisome about his production in this matchup?
No, I actually think Saquon could be in line for a big game here. And you look at what James Cook was able to do against the Chiefs. If you're looking at the Chiefs defense, I'd be more worried about kind of what they can present to the Eagles passing game, especially, if the Eagles are playing from behind the sticks. But I think the approach is going to be the lean on Saquon. And the reality, I know the rosters are different on both sides, but the biggest difference for the Eagles from now compared to when they played the Chiefs in Super Bowl 2 years ago is the upgrade at running back to Saquon. And you are correct. He's just been outstanding this year. I think Cleveland was the only team that really bottled him up. And then the second half against Washington when Jalen was out of the lineup with the concussion, you didn't have the +1 element to the running game, and I think that really affected the offense. But I would expect the Eagles to lean on Saquon. I think that's, if there is a vulnerability in Kansas City's defense, I think that's where the Eagles will try to take advantage of it. Now, Steve Spagnuolo is as good a coordinator as there is in the league. He obviously knows the Eagles can do this with Saquon. So, but I would expect this to be a big Saquon game in the Super Bowl.
What about the Eagles defense and the defensive line in particular? This group has been outrageously good. They can take over the game. I do think it was a good matchup against a little bit of a beat up Commanders offensive line. They had lost their left guard, Cosme or whatnot, going into that game last week. They were a little banged up. So are they playing as well as we think they are, or was that more because of the circumstances that they were playing against that Washington was dealing with?
Yeah, I mean, the Eagles finished this year number 1 in the NFL in defense, and it surprised me, to be honest with you. I thought when they hired Vic Fangio, it was going to raise the floor more than it was going to raise the ceiling, right? Like, I didn't think they'd be the 29th ranked defense like last year. I certainly didn't think they would be the number 1 defense, though. And so this has been pretty consistent throughout the year. And I think what you saw against Washington, now the turnover part of it, you can't rely on 4 turnovers every week or 4 takeaways every week, but they've been doing the takeaway part of it really for the past 2 months here. They've been outstanding in that area, and that's just the sound defense, especially on the back end. That's really the big difference. If you've watched the Eagles over the past few years, it's night and day in terms of their coverage this year compared to last year. Quinyon Mitchell's been a revelation for them. Obviously, Cooper DeJean's been a big upgrade in the slot. And then at the second level, the Eagles have not invested in linebackers. They didn't sign Zach Bond to be a Defensive Player of the Year candidate. Zach Bond's a Defensive Player of the Year candidate. And so when you think about the Eagles historically, you always think about the defensive front and what they can do at the line of scrimmage. And they can still do that with Jalen Carter and Milton Williams, Jordan Davis, Josh Sweat, Nolan Smith's been playing well. But really the difference with this defense under Fangio is what they've been able to do in the back end. Now, when you face Mahomes, all bets are off. And, there's a reason why Mahomes is in the winner's circle every year. But this Eagles defense is for real because it's been this way going back to early October.
We're visiting with Zach Berman. He covers the Philadelphia Eagles. Outside of the injury portions of it, I want to go back to some of the protection breakdowns. We know Dickerson had to move inside to center deep. Does that just get cleaned up against Kansas City? Is that maybe a problem that lingers into this Super Bowl?
Yeah, as far as protection, I think getting their 5 offensive linemen on the field together will be a big part of it. But that Chiefs pass rush, the Chiefs blitzing, that's for real. And the Eagles need to be outstanding in that area, not just good, but outstanding. And Jeff Stoutland, and you guys know him well down there in Alabama, he's the best offensive line coach in the NFL. And the Eagles personnel-wise, with Lane Johnson and Jordan Mailata and Landon Dickerson, Cam Jurgens, Mekhi Becton, they're probably the best offensive line in the NFL. It's really strength on strength there. The Eagles need to be especially strong in blitz pickup. Jalen's been better against the blitz this year. That was a major problem for the Eagles 1 year ago. It was a major point of emphasis this offseason, and it's going to be tested in the biggest game of the year.
Finally, Zach, when you look at what Andy Reid has accomplished in Kansas City, I think it's easy to connect the dots between these two. We did this a couple of years ago when they played. It's easy to connect the dots and say, well, Philly should have never let go of Andy Reid. Well, okay, hindsight's 2020. Andy Reid at that time couldn't win the big one, and he now has won. Guess what? With Patrick Mahomes. A lot of people could probably do that. Doesn't mean Andy Reid's not great, but it certainly has changed the narrative on him. How do Philly fans feel about Andy Reid and his dismissal?
Yeah, it's a great question. You know, I've covered the Eagles for 13 years. I'm at PHLY now, but you know, I covered the end of the Andy Reid era at the Philadelphia Inquirer. I've written books on the team, and so I feel pretty comfortable talking about this topic. I think I can speak first off internal and kind of the organization's thinking is it had run its course at the end. I think change was needed for both sides. I think Andy would probably tell you that too. There was a lot, you know, going on in his family life at that time that really affected every. You know, it was beyond football at the end, right? But as far as the fan base, there was fatigue at the end. The fact that he was there for 14 years, they had not won the Super Bowl. I think history has obviously been favorable to Andy Reid. I think the fact that the Eagles have won the Super Bowl since then, you know, 2017, they've been back twice. I think it certainly has maybe healed some of whatever wounds might have existed from the end of Andy's tenure. So I don't think the distaste is there. I think as time's gone on, there's an appreciation for what those 14 years were, which it was the best era of football in Eagles history, and they just didn't have a Lombardi Trophy to show for it. But I could also say that a lot of what the Eagles do now really stems from the Andy Reid era. When you talk about the focus on the lines of scrimmage, when you talk about how they allocate resources, you know, Howie Roseman, the GM, Howie's only worked in the Eagles organization. He came in under Andy. He learned football under Andy, right? Jeffrey Lurie, you know, the Eagles owner, he worked with Andy for 14 years. So I think that there's still a lot of Andy's fingerprints throughout the organization, but I can also say that those people inside the building want to beat Andy as well. They don't want the story to be that the two Super Bowls they faced against Andy won.
Absolutely. Zach, great stuff, man. Appreciate the time. It's going to be fun the next 2 weeks for you covering these Philadelphia Eagles and then obviously covering the Super Bowl. Thanks for hanging out with us, though, and giving us some more insight.
Absolutely. Thanks, guys.
Catch up soon. Zach Berman covers the Philadelphia Eagles at ZBerm. You can follow him on Twitter. He's covered him for a long time, a lot of different outlets. He knows the team well. And that's an aspect you just brought up, Greg, that I don't think a lot of people focus on. That I don't think the actual players on this Philadelphia team right now are going to think about it much. But you think about the front office, you think about people that have been with that franchise for a long time, maybe some of the fans, that is a little bit of an extra added aspect to this game and maybe some of the meeting.
Yeah, I think there is a little bit. I mean,
and for Andy Reid also.
There's guys that are player for the Eagles that were drafted by Andy Reid. I mean, that's a thing. Granted, it's been a long time. I'm sure anybody is really hanging on to that. How long has it been? Over 10 years?
I think so.
Probably so, right? So it's been a minute. But it's also worth noting, I mean, they let him go and they said, it's time for you to go. You didn't win. You can't win. You haven't won the big one. And they ultimately did a couple years later with Doug Peterson. And there's a lot to like about that. But still, I think Andy Reid probably remembers that.
I think so.
I think he probably holds a bit of a grudge, whether you want to acknowledge it or not.
I don't think there's any doubt about it. It'll definitely play into his mind. But I think Andy Reid far enough down in his career that it's not going to be a massive issue for him as far as how he manages it and the expectations that'll come with it. All right. There is an offer thrown out in college football that we need to get to later this hour. We're going to have Chris Blair also coming up this hour to discuss Auburn and LSU on the basketball court tonight. Can LSU take advantage of Auburn's last outing the way that Kentucky did with Tennessee? We'll see tonight as that game will air at 6 p.m. on the SEC network. Auburn 18-1, number one team in the country. LSU 12-7. And before we move on to that, we know that game going to be on the hardwood. If you're looking for hardwoods in your home, you should probably call Shannara Flooring.
Yeah, Shannara Flooring does a great job, and Fu, the owner, has put together a team that will always take care of your floors as if it's their own. They're going to show up on time. They're going to respect your house. They're going to get the job done right. So Foo, they have done a great job of building the foundation of trust and integrity amongst those that will be working on your project. Whether you're replacing old carpet or upgrading to hardwood, you can rely on Foo and his team to make sure that things are perfect when you go with Shannara Flooring. So when it's time for new flooring, ask yourself, call who? Call Foo. Call them direct at 205-518-6423 and see all the new styles for 2025 at shannaraflooring.com.
Are you taking the over or the under on a massive offer to potentially college football's best player? We'll let you hear what it was, and then we'll ask that question next on Mac and Cube in the morning. We all know that silly money has been thrown around in the portal to try and attract players to the portal. You could imagine that Ohio State wide receiver Jeremiah Smith would garner some of those offers, and probably some folks that are trying to go out of their way to make some certain things happen. Tampering, not tampering, however you want to describe it, think what it is, agent involvement, however that happened. Pat McAfee on his show yesterday discussing a pretty big number that was thrown at the Ohio State wide receiver, potentially.
I mentioned it a few different times. Jeremiah Smith is going to get a massive offer immediately after this season's over. That's what the NIL is. That actually led to Coach Saban saying, to your point about that, we need some sort of, we shouldn't be saying that Jeremiah Smith might be gone from Ohio State immediately after this national championship, because the way the world is, it's like, well, there is a chance. And allegedly, Jeremiah Smith has been offered $4.5 million.
4.5 million. Now, we don't know if that's for a year, Greg, 2 years. I mean, obviously he has to be in school for 2 more years. But
yes.
Even if it's 2 years, that's a ridiculous offer for a wide receiver. And not to say that he probably wouldn't be worth it, because he's incredible. You taking the over under on $4.5 million for Jeremiah Smith, just the offer on the table.
I'll take the under.
Would you take close?
No.
Where do you think this
on a scale of,
where do you think this is coming from Ohio State to try to just go ahead and push off some of the potential suitors that are throwing out large amounts of money just to say, hey, we're monitoring this? Actually, you know what would be really smart right now is if Ryan Day or somebody from Ohio State called a couple of people, maybe Pat's folks or him being one of them, and said,
yeah,
we got offers for $4.5 million for this kid coming out. So then if you're Oregon and you're thinking about offering 3, you're like, you know what, we're not even going to get in that. We're staying out of that game.
Or then you
or if
invite Oregon to go offer 5.
Well, yeah. Or if maybe it's his folks. Or if you're
who it is,
if you think
agent.
If you think Miami's coming at him with 3, you go ahead and float it out there and say, we've had 4, and this kid's already gotten 4.5 offered.
Agent.
Which then wouldn't be so smart on the flip side of that, because he comes back and says, yeah, we don't even know who it was, coach, but I got 4.5 on the table.
Yeah.
Oh, that was us. Okay, good. When's the check show up?
Well, I know what Quinshon got.
Since you're willing to talk it, are you willing to stroke it?
I know what Quinshon got.
The check.
Yeah.
John, why don't do that?
What?
There's Rocky Maivia eyebrow raised. Talking about money.
Oh.
Well, that usually begets one. Yeah.
I know what Caleb Downs got. I know what Quinshon Judkins got.
Quinshon get 1?
Yeah. 1.
Caleb Downs more?
Yeah. Not by a ton.
1.2 ish.
A little north of that.
1.3 ish.
I heard 1.6.
1.1, 1.6, big difference.
If you think
it's like a Rolls Royce Phantom.
If you think that the receiver is going to get 3x the best defense player in the country, I got some oceanfront property for you in Alexander City.
What about waterfront?
Definitely got waterfront. About 220 feet of it. Yeah, dude, it's not that high. I bet you it's coming from his representation. They want it out there. They want to get somebody to take the bait. I'd be willing to bet at most it's half. But then again, you also heard the buzz about what Carson Beck was making. And then you come to find out, and it's about 25% less.
Is it close to 3.2?
Well, original was 4. Then it went to 3.2. Now it's like 2.5.
Oh.
And you're finding out, too, that that's if you win the Heisman, the ACC, the national championship, all the incentives that are also in there.
How are the incentives able to be put in? I thought that couldn't be a part of these deals.
Well, I think it's just understood.
Or
they're getting maximum value.
Do you reword it to where if you win a game that garners a ring at some point, then we can give you this? Or is that how things are being structured? Like the verbally, how things are written out?
Yeah, you'll be taken care of.
How many agents do you think are letting these kids take handshake agreements on things like that?
A
like,
lot.
hey, we can't write this deal to where if you win the Heisman, we'll give you $500,000, but if you win the Heisman, we'll give you $500,000.
A lot.
And then after the fact, what are you going to do? Go after
you don't
them?
get them. You don't get it.
You're going to go throw them under the bus after they just paid you 2.2, but you don't get 2.7.
Yes.
Doubt that's going to happen.
Yeah. I mean, what are you going to do? Go public and say they didn't pay us?
Yeah, it's like the overseas gambling companies back in the day when they didn't send you your payout. Like, what are you going to do? Going to tell the cops?
Yeah, about to say.
You're hitting the offshores?
Correct. Yep.
Call them.
Oh,
tell them we're right here in the Bermuda Triangle.
I'm about to say, yeah, this offshore bank account stole my money. Oh, did they? Imagine that. You wouldn't say.
How many times did you place wagers with them?
Yes.
Noted.
Correct.
Hold on, let me get my recorder going here.
Hang on a second. My bookie owes me money. Okay, what do you do about it? You know, it's like,
think about everything that we just said, though. about off of one sound clip that I will not doubt has some accuracy. And that's what head coaches have to deal with. One, the agents wanting to put numbers out. Two, other schools coming at them. Three, the kids hearing the big numbers, knowing what the real numbers is, wanting the big numbers, not going to get the big numbers. Four, just trying to keep those guys there with you. What are you going to have to give them? What are you going to have to say to them? Do they want to stay with you? I mean, it's just, well, it's a lot, man. It's a lot. And everything I've heard about Jeremiah Smith, I haven't met him, I haven't talked to him, but everything I've heard is that he's excellent. On the field, off the field, hardest worker you've ever seen, just a good human, wants to do things the right way, I think wants to be at Ohio State. So, and Ohio State's done a great job retaining talent. And a lot of that is the money they put behind it, which, as they should, for good players.
I would 100% prioritize spending on retaining talent than spending on welcoming possible problems into your locker room. Like knowing what you're going to get. I would strongly prioritize
what was Coach Saban's
that.
quote? Said if you pay a guy a lot to come play for you, that guy will take a lot to leave you. Plain and simple. I don't think those were his exact words, but something along those lines. I heard him say earlier this year.
Yes.
Pay a guy a lot to come play for you. Expect him to take a lot to leave and go play somewhere else.
He also said all it takes is one.
Turd?
Yep.
Yeah.
One bad guy in the locker room and you're dead. It's all it takes.
Ruin a whole batch of punch. All of it.
What?
Nobody will want any. Batch of punch, you put one of those in the punch bowl, nobody wants any of it. It's all gone. It's just a waste.
Whole batch?
The whole concoction. What do you call
it? Keg.
I have never done a keg stand with punch, but have at it. High C?
No, Sunny D and or
Hawaiian punch.
Tang.
Hawaiian punch out of the metal canister back in the day when you had to open both sides, underrated.
I'm sorry, did you live in 1963?
78.
Under.
Did.
Dude, they did not come in like the thing where you had to open both sides.
I wasn't at the age where you had to do that then, but yeah, in my early years, you had the metal canister of Hawaiian punch. You had to get the can opener and you punched one side, and if you didn't punch the other side, it wouldn't come out. It literally would not pour out. Talk about Bill Nye the Science Guy. That'd blow your mind.
Wow.
John, am I lying? If you hit the one side of the Hawaiian punch can and you turned it up, it wouldn't come out. You had to hit the other side to let the air through somehow, whatever. It's called ventilation, Greg.
Or shotgunning, yeah.
Yes. You shotgunned Hawaiian punch?
I guess so. Damn Skippy. I guess I did. I didn't know you did that.
We had this miraculous thing. It was weird. When I was a kid,
here we go.
It was so strange.
Here it comes.
I don't know how they came up with something so genius.
You grew up down the street from SMU. Y'all had different toys than we did growing up.
That's what it was. Uh-huh.
You and Jerry Jones's neighborhood.
Yeah, it's exactly where we lived. We lived closer to Dallas, the set of Dallas, than we did to Jerry Jones's neighborhood. Or the house in Dallas or whatever the heck that was, which really wasn't that far from where I grew up.
Did they film Dallas in Dallas?
Oh, yeah.
I didn't know.
Dude, the house is, I'm not kidding, 20 minutes from where I grew up, just southeast. Anyways, we had these crazy things. It was wild. They're called twist off caps. Oh, dude, you could put them back on.
Yeah.
And then you wouldn't even have to drink your whole Hawaiian punch right there.
We had this other thing you didn't have called 3 liters. Not these Weekdays 2 liters you got going now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How's your diabetes?
It was up there. I feel like we're getting under control now. But the old 3 liter put it to the test back in the day.
How much sugar?
You ever had 3 liter with a large pizza? Pfft, couldn't tell us nothing. Blockbuster video card? Couldn't tell us a thing. Zero.
We're going to have ourselves a night, guys.
We're living.
Guess what we're doing tonight? 3 liters.
Police Academy 2.
Oh, my gosh.
If only we
Golly, I'm so glad I grew up when I grew up.
If only we had Gusty Goulis in the Gusty Goulis group to get us out of Maison DeVille and find a house, we'd have been better off. If you're looking for a new home in the Birmingham area, Gusty Goulis can help you. 205-542-1996 or Google Gusty Goulis Group. You'll see over 835-star Google reviews. Go to GustyGoulisGroup.com right now. Button at the top of your page. Smash that. Very little information. See what your home's worth. And then maybe you want Gusty Goulis and the Gusty Goulis Group to go to work for you. They serve more than 3,000 home buyers and sellers in the Birmingham area. Why not call Gusty Goulis and the Gusty Goulis Group? 205-542-1996 or Google GustyGoulisGroup.com today and start packing. Chris Blair previews Auburn LSU in basketball tonight. Next, Mac and Cube in the morning. $9:32, Wednesday, January 29th, right here on Docs 94.5. We're going to go right to the Buyers Riot Hotline, welcoming Chris Blair, voice of the LSU Tigers. And Chris, McElroy brought up a really good point earlier in the show, talking about Tennessee last night and how they looked against Kentucky. I mean, 11-45. I don't know if you can ever excuse that from behind the three-point line, but what that game against Auburn potentially took out of them on Saturday, do you think the LSU staff is expecting or at least hoping for something similar from Auburn tonight?
Yeah, I think first off, gentlemen, thanks for having me on.
Yes, sir.
I think to be honest with you, after the effort LSU put up at Coleman Coliseum, which is not an easy place for anybody to play, and certainly hasn't been for LSU for decades. I think there was a little bit of relief that they actually won that game against Tennessee. As opposed to maybe dropping that one before they roll into Baton Rouge. But I talked to Coach McMahon Monday, and, he said one of the things is, don't be fooled by the low-scoring game. He goes, it's one of the more physical games that I have seen in a while for both teams. And, that's kind of been an issue for LSU, I think, through 6 conference games. The first 3 games, I think a lot of the guys who transferred in, who, frankly, LSU's relying on, I mean, there's not a single player that's in the starting lineup that was in the starting lineup a year ago. I think they were a little surprised. I think they had to adjust to the physicality of the game. And they've done a much better job over the last three. Now, they don't have a lot to show for it except, one victory in 5 and 6 tries. But I think they're expecting a physical game. But, you're going to have to do that night in, night out in this league, especially this year.
It's an insanely difficult league, and one that there's really no shame in losing games. It's like, all right, well, they lost. I'm not that worried about them. It's wild, but it's taking a bit of an adjustment. How do you think they'll be able to handle this game tonight? Do you think this is a game that will be one that's manageable, or do you think it's one that there's maybe still a little bit of a hangover effect?
Well, I don't know, Greg, if there's a hangover effect just simply because I think LSU, at least the story in the locker room and at practice is, hey, guys, we're making those steps. It's not resulting in W's yet.
Right.
And, of course, that's the business we're all in. But if you look at the first 2 to 3 SEC games versus really the last 3, you're going to see a team that played much better. I think the problem with Auburn and LSU from an LSU matchup standpoint is Jeni Broome, just simply because LSU is so reliant on the backcourt to not only provide and set the tone defensively, but they carry the load offensively. And, Jeni Broome is just a game changer. The guy misses a couple of games and with what looked to be an awful ankle injury, and then he bounces back and has a double-double in his first game back against, one of the better teams, the best team in the SEC, Tennessee. So I think that's probably the bigger concern. They know it's going to be physical.
Yeah.
They're going to try to replicate what they did Saturday at Coleman, but they're going to have a matchup nightmare with Jeni Broome, not to mention the rest of Auburn's lineup.
Well, most teams going to have an issue with Broome just with his athleticism plus the size and physicality. It's a difficult matchup. Where do you give LSU some advantages matching up with this Auburn basketball team?
I think, Cam Carter has been Mr. Consistent, and, I think he's going to be a problem for them just simply because he's faced really good defenses who now for 8 to 10 games since he, came to LSU this season, that he's the number one. He's at the top of the list in the game prep. This is who we want to take away. So it starts with Cam Carter. But I think Alabama in the early moments, it was pretty obvious. They were a little surprised by the physicality that Corey Chess brought. They just couldn't stop the guy in the first half. He had a double-double, his first in SEC play, before the first half, 10 points and 15 rebounds. They adjusted to that. They ended up with just 2 more points and 3 more boards. But I think he's a guy that his presence has to be known. If he can give you 12 points, that's great. But you've got to be able to at least hold your own on the rebounding front. And LSU has struggled the first 3 SEC games. They did not do well there. And Corey Chess kind of was, the quiet guy, 4 rebounds, 5 rebounds. But he's a guy that's super athletic, and he's got to find a way to at least keep Auburn to one and done, because that's really what lost the game for LSU against the number 4 team Saturday, was they kept them off the offensive glass in the first half. And they didn't down the stretch in the second half. And Alabama's a team that, boy, oh boy, when you let them get a rebound, a second offensive rebound, they're eventually going to score. And they did down the stretch and got that run and eventually held on to win by 7.
With a team that has such a size advantage, Auburn's advantage over LSU, how do you neutralize that if you are going at it from a LSU perspective?
I think LSU's kind of figured out. I think Coach Matt McMahon, to start the season, thought his team had the ability to shoot the ball better, and they just haven't for whatever reason. There's only 4 teams, I think, in Division Power 4 basketball that shoot the ball worse than LSU. It's hard to win if you can't put the ball in the cylinder. So what they tried to do against Alabama was win every other statistic, make up for it somewhere else. That's what they'll have to do with Auburn. It's not a team built to score 90 and 100 points. LSU desperately needs to kind of muddy this game up, slow it down, make Auburn work, for 25 seconds or more in the shot clock, just to kind of keep this game somewhere in the 60s or 70s if possible. And that's been a change. And Coach McMahon talked about it last week. We thought we were going to be able to be a team that could consistently score 80 and 90 points, which they did in the non-conference. But obviously, when you ramp up competition in the SEC, once again, especially this year, that's just not going to be the recipe for success. So I think the best thing for them to do is be real methodical and just on the defensive end, really make Auburn work. And I think that's the difference for me. That's what's impressive about Coach Pearl's team this year is I think in the past they were so reliant on the three that even when they had huge leads, there were games where LSU was down 20-plus points, but Auburn continued to shoot threes, and they shot threes 8 seconds into the possession. And suddenly, if they miss a few, LSU was able to climb back and actually make it a game late. I don't see that with this Auburn team. They're a very good two-point shooting team, obviously, with the front line that they have. And, there's, I think, 7 teams in the SEC that have attempted more threes than Auburn this year. So I think they're a little more balanced. And to me, that's the biggest problem with this Auburn team is they've always played aggressive and physical defense. But now I think they're really strategic in what they do offensively, and they've got the guys to do it.
Chris Blair, voice of the LSU Tigers, joining us on the Buyers Right Hotline. Chris, I wanted to get your thoughts just on the LSU football offseason thus far. Brian Kelly made some noise when you missed out on a high school recruit saying, listen, we've got the tank, we're going to spend it. And it feels like he's done that so far. It feels like LSU's had a couple big hits. What has been the reception of the Bayou Bengals this offseason thus far?
Well, as of 9:40 Central Time, everybody feels really good about what's happened. We'll see what happens, later next week. I mean, that seems to be the world we live in now. I mean, if you look at the early signing period, as you said, everybody was distraught that they, swung and missed on a particular signee. And, it was doom and gloom here for a couple of days. And then as the transfer portal window expanded and, there were more names added to that portal and suddenly LSU started to fill their coffers, I think the feeling is we've got a roster that should be what fans expect it to be. And, it's the transfer portal era and is what it is. And, there's been some that have come into LSU that have been gangbusters, as we all know, certainly a couple of Heisman winners and a couple of big-time NFL players now. But there's also been some that just haven't panned out. So, but I think overall the pulse of the fan base is that they did an incredible job out of the portal. And, you have some, and you guys know this, you probably hear it all the time. You have some that still hang on to, we really need to get those high school freshmen in and develop them over 2 to 3 years. And then there's another crowd that says, no, let's go find the best guys that are in the portal and let's build this team for 2025. And I think right now LSU feels like they went out to the portal and they're going to build it for 2025.
How confident do they feel in being able to make progress this year on defense? Because offensively feel pretty good about them as long as they can run the ball a little bit. But it's really more about the defense's progress that I think has people a little bit concerned.
Well, I think now that you're in the off season, or as everybody refers to as the talking season, headed into spring ball, I think most people feel like, okay, let's really examine last year. And I think, unfortunately, because we're victims of the moment, we're comparing it, right or wrong, to the season before, which was abysmal. So I think most fans at this time of the year are saying, okay, there were incremental improvements. Overall, it was not fantastic. And overall, it's not the standard it has to be successful and compete for an SEC title. And as we found out, get into a 12-team playoff. But I think they're hanging their hat on. There were a few things that we did like, and I think they're pleased with the direction Coach Baker's going. And then, same deal. They just throw the transfer portal guys that have been added to the defense, because I think in some instances it wasn't an effort issue. I think it was just a talent issue and a skill issue. And eventually, that all came to the top. But I think most people now feel like we made some incremental steps, so we do have faith in Coach Baker. We like the direction they're going in. Let's go get the people, plug them in, and see if we can get better. So I think the thought is the team will take another step forward. How big a step in 2025? I think that's the truth that we all have to wait and find out.
Chris, great stuff, man. Thanks for the time. We always enjoy talking with you, both football, basketball, whatever it is, and we'll catch up with you again soon. Enjoy the game tonight.
No, I appreciate you guys. You're my favorite on TV, so you guys have fun, and hopefully we'll have a good game tonight.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much. Chris Blair, voice of the LSU Tigers, joining us on the Buyers Right Hotline. Auburn at LSU tonight, 6 p.m. SEC Network. Auburn 18-1. A win would tie the best start in program history. They're 8-1 all time versus the AP number 1 team, 5-0 at home. That one loss came out of Arkansas, as some of the listeners corrected us on earlier today. LSU 3-17 all time against the AP number 1 team. They've lost 5 straight. So we'll see if that hangover effect from what happened against Tennessee affects Auburn the way it did Tennessee against Kentucky last night, as they shot 11 of 45 from behind the three-point line. Something that's very familiar usually in our next segment, which is bad box score of the day. You're never going to go that wrong, though, shopping at Bromberg's.
Bromberg's is great. I've been going there for a very long time. I know you guys will have the same experience that I've had. That's top-tier craftsmanship on incredible, one-of-a-kind pieces that you can go and get and keep in your family for potentially a number of years, maybe even multiple generations. These are special, special items, and they are significant investment in your family and your loved ones. And right now you can go get a Via Tree hibiscus glass vase. If you purchase it on the 13th or 14th of February, it comes with a free bouquet of fresh flowers. This is handmade Italian glass that is beautiful. And it can also come with a gold-plated charm as well that you can have personalized for just $28. The engravings will be offered on February 13th at the Summit and February 14th at Mountain Brook. So go and see Bromberg's in Mountain Brook Village and at the Summit.
All right, when we come back, bad box scores, plural of the day, next on McElroy and Cubelic in the morning. All right, welcome back in. McElroy and Cubelic in the morning, Wednesday, January 29th, 9:49 a.m. Jocks 94.5. Appreciate you guys tuning in. Listen online, jocksfm.com, apps in the App Store, iPhone, Android. You can download that for free. You can also watch live on YouTube each and every day. Search Jocks 945. Let's get to our bad box scores of the day.
Personal foul, 69, offense. He was giving them the business.
Intentional grounding, offense number 7. It's a 10-yard penalty. I'm talking to America here, excuse me.
That's the game.
Some folks may have had their flu games in the bad box scores of the day based on numbers they were able to put up or maybe not put up. We are in the middle of flu season. Make your home healthier with Trane's Clean Effects Home Air Cleaner. Removes up to 99.9% of airborne particles, including those that cause virus, 100 times more effective than standard air filters, 8 times more effective than HEPA room filters. Find a dealer near you at Trane.com. It's hard to stop a train. Go to JUCO women's basketball. The Harry S. Truman College
Presidents.
Close.
They're the Tigers.
They're not.
Pioneers.
Falcons.
Oh.
Nah.
How's that close?
They just went down to the Olive Harvey College.
The Gardens.
No.
Oils.
No. They're the Bearcats.
Negative. No. They're the Panthers.
Oh, how's are better?
The Panthers mauled the Falcons 77-29 last night.
Yeesh.
In JUCO basketball.
It happens.
But not 29 in a game.
Doesn't happen often.
I've seen worse.
Have you?
Yeah. Like yesterday.
Was yesterday worse?
I don't remember.
I don't recall the actual.
They didn't lose by a triple dig. We've had that before.
Triple dig.
That's also, I mean, I'll give you that one.
It gets you every time.
It sometimes takes place. Probably not near as bad as a couple of these I'm just going to roll through because we have actually a lot that I could get to today. Probably not near as bad as the York University JV, who went down to, how would you say Platte?
Platte. Platte.
Not Platte?
You can say Platte.
It has an accent mark over the E. You would.
Yeah.
To North Platte Community College last night, 95-22.
That's worse.
Our 3-year-old just learned how to Platte, how to go into the Platte.
I don't have the numbers from York University's JV. They're not listed. However, I will just inform you.
You never told us what the Yorks were. The Terriers.
Yorkies.
No. Mounties. The North Platte Community College.
Harbingers.
No.
Potties.
No.
The Johns.
No. The Bulldogs.
They're the Knights.
The Knights.
The Knights went 42 of.
Why do you ask like we should know that?
90 in the game.
That's not
90 shots in the game.
42 of 90 is not that bad.
47%. No, this is the team that won. They
I was
shot
going
90
to
shots.
say, what's wrong with this?
No, they only went 5 of 23 from behind 3. They did grab 58 rebounds, 31 of them on offense.
There we go.
Mm-hmm.
They just wanted more.
That is a lot of second chance points.
We can coach that.
Can
we? Yeah.
Your score by quarter in the game, 27-4, 20-7, 26-5, 22-6. So not a good coach. Not a good coach.
The other one is.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Well, North Platte won 95-22. I'd say they're a good coach.
Okay.
Not just
a
bad coach, but a bad coach.
The Monroe University Bronx.
The pizzas.
Come on. No.
Let's say Yankees.
No, they're the Cavaliers.
They're the Express. They went down to the, I don't have this mascot, by the way, Bronx Community College.
Bronx Community College.
They feel like the
Yankees.
No. They're the
They're
the Broncos.
The Broncos.
Ooh, I like that one.
You weren't going to say Broncos.
BBs, baby.
Express won 85-27.
What? Hold on. Oh, you said 85. I thought you said 185 to 27.
No. Just
Sweet Jesus.
85-27 is bad enough.
Correct. Didn't need the 100.
Your rebounding differential was 47-22 in this game.
Okay.
All right. Not terrible.
Bronx Community College, stop the music for a moment.
Oh, boy.
They shot the ball 31 times in the game.
And?
Smothering defense.
They made 9.
And?
Like total.
That's not from 3. That's from the floor.
And?
They did shoot 11 threes in the game.
And they made?
Okay. That's
1.
Mm.
They also shot 19 free throws.
So they were
okay.
And?
They're effective.
They made 8.
Okay, that was ineffective. I apologize.
Not great. Not great.
This might be an all-time statistic in bad box score of the day.
Oh, boy.
Bronx Community College turned the ball over 51 times last night.
That is an all-timer.
That's tough.
Okay, stop the music again one more time.
Oh, boy. Here we go.
They shot the ball 31 times.
Right.
Turned it over.
They turned the ball over 51 times.
Smothering defense.
Not great.
And this is a JV team?
No.
Oh, that was the other
This
one?
is not
Oh.
that. No, it isn't. 31 shots in the game, 51 turnovers in the game. I got to know how.
It's a lot.
Do you get to a point where you just say, just don't even pass, just let the shot clock run out? Does that count as a turnover?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I bet it would have been less if they did it on every possession.
You think?
Yeah, actually, I do. Because Monroe University Bronx shot 35 of 71 in the game, 9 of 27 from 3, which both are really good, but can you stop it one more time? Well, you can't stop that.
Not that one.
The last number that I will give you from this game, on said 9 of 31 shooting, that would be how many misses, Greg?
9 of 31 would be 22 misses.
Bronx Community College grabbed 2 offensive rebounds. I don't make these up. I just read the box scores. Y'all can be mad at them. That's what I think about that game. 2 offensive rebounds in a game.
Oh, we can be mad at
51
it.
turnovers.
Sounds like you are.
I feel like that's a pretty good job of blocking out.
That's how I look at it.
You blocked your own team out, maybe.
Maybe.
Yikes, Arama on that one is what
Not
I would
great.
say. It's just not the best we've heard. We'll be back tomorrow. More of the top 100 games of the season. We'll break down the film. Bama, Georgia tomorrow. 3-man front is next.